I'm like waving like, hello, subscribe. We have a Patreon now. We're so excited about it. We're offering things like day early access. We're going to have a Lustra podcast. That's Elle's beautiful season 9 alternate universe that she wrote before season 9 dropped.
I'm very, very excited about this.
We'll also have a third monthly podcast where we just ramble and rant and let you guys kind of spin the wheel of topics, and we'll just talk about whatever. There'll be a private community where everyone can kind of interact with each other on each tier, and eventually, if y'all are generous enough to actually pay like top 2 tiers, we're giving you guys shout outs on the main pods because we're just so grateful to anybody who wants to spend extra time and a little money on us. Anything we earn from this is going to go toward upgrading our Zoom because every single one of our hosts are across the country from each other. I'll upgrade my editing software. It'll pay for me to host our podcast on Podbean. It'll also just cover if I can upgrade my equipment. Eventually, it'll spill on into everybody else's and they can upgrade theirs, and it'll just pay to make the quality better. So
I could get a microphone.
Yeah.
Seriously.
We all want to have good equipment for this reason.
Yeah. I see we already have a dozen people who have signed up for at least the free tier. That's amazing.
That's so cool.
They're all so sweet. I love them all like they're my little children.
Oh.
So check us out on Patreon. You can find the link in all the show notes or in the bio on our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and any links I post to Tumblr. Hope to see you guys there.
Jess's little picture. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Hello.
Hi. How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of waiting for, something exciting to happen.
Gosh, I can't believe. Are we allowed to talk on the podcast about it?
I guess so. Well, by the time this goes out, he'll be here, right? So
He'll be like a whole person. He'll be like five months old, maybe 6. Who knows when this is going to come out? I don't know.
So yeah, I think everyone that knows about it will know by then. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, guys, we're recording again. It's season 2 of A Sam Girl Retrospective pod. Yay! It is not even a week since the last episode of season 1 dropped. We were like, maybe we should just start. I don't think we can stay away, but yeah, Jess is waiting on a special delivery in the next few days.
Yes, I am.
It's a
Delivered by myself.
Tiny little baby, a little baby boy who's going to be a Libra. We are recording this in September, literally September 25th. So y'all, if we ever talk about anything, my mic is stupid. If we ever talk about anything that is extremely outdated, it is because we are far in the past. We're far in the past.
Speaking to the future.
We are. We're speaking. And I see sweet Freya is there. Hi, little girly. I love her.
Oh, she's off again.
Okay, bye. Oh, I see we've upgraded to like a mic with like a spit screen or whatever. Is that really what it's called, or did I make that up?
It does have a name, and you saying split screen has made the real name complete. Pop filter. That's the word.
Filter. So it's really for sound, but I just imagine it catches a bunch of spit.
Yeah.
Which is what it's for.
This makes me think of Jonathan Groff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anti-graph device.
Literally. He's very moist. Is that what he kept saying in interviews? I'm very damp. I'm very moist. And they were all like,
it's notorious for it.
He's very he's drippy. He's very drippy on stage. We're gonna do the same things. We're gonna have a rating system as always. We're gonna have a wardrobe, I'm not gonna say like a critique. We're gonna try to be nice, and we're gonna have more girlies on at once. More of our hosts on at the same time. As you guys can tell, we've got Vic. You want to say hi?
Hi. So yeah, I'm Vic.
There's Vic's voice. I'm Audree, and then we have Jess today. Say hi, Jess.
Hello, it's me, Jess.
Okay, so those are their little sweet voices. We're gonna try to have multiple people on at a time from now on. I think the finale of season 1 was so fun, we were all talking. So we're gonna dabble in the chaos and see if we can have it. And maybe Elle will pop in a little bit later during this episode. She might be able to. So we'll have a fourth one of us on. So
Crazy
we are
days.
doing, I know it's crazy. We're gonna do 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes of season 2. And I know we gave the pilot its own episode, but I think we the way that we wanted to split some of the episodes for season 2, there were at least 2, but I think maybe 3 episodes in season 2 that we wanted to give their own space. And so it didn't really work out for us to get to give the first episode of season 2 its own, which is honestly probably for the best.
I think I said this in the chat as well. Spiritually, these are like the last 2 episodes of season 1 because it's the last 2 episodes of the season 1 hair. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I like that aesthetically and spiritually. It is the end of season 1.
And also something happens in Bloodlust that you will talk about, which to me is the kind of turning point of like Dean's side of the narrative, which also then I think is the turning point of the story in general. So
I agree. And I do feel like we kind of needed the second episode to lift the spirit of the first because it's so heavy. And with the pilot, it kind of does that. It wraps it all up together. But I'm glad we're not going to leave this episode feeling as sad as we might if we only had done in my time of dying. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to recap season 2, episode 1 in my time of dying really fast. It is a fantastic episode, I think, from top to bottom. And I'm gonna kind of just recap it real fast because it's really like a lot happens, but it doesn't take a lot to describe it. We're right at the end of season 1. We start right back. And they get to the hospital. It's very scary. Dean is walking around the hospital like, hey, I need help. I need to find out where my family is. And it turns out the cold open is no one can see him. And so you're like, damn, Dean's a ghost. So the whole episode is essentially about Sam and John trying to figure out what to do for Dean because he's in a coma. Dean as like an astral projection of himself, trying to figure out what to do. Try to break through and connect with Sam so they can figure things out. And essentially by the end, you find out that he is fighting to stay alive against the Reaper who is trying to take him to the other side. We learn that that's how angry spirits are born. They refuse to cross over with the Reapers. And then at the end, Dad calls the yellow-eyed demon to make we assume to make a deal and save Dean. Oh no, we don't even have to assume because we see it. So they make a deal and save Dean's life, and in return, John is killed, and so he dies there at the end. It's very tragic. So that's it. So let's start. We're gonna try to go chronologically. That's not like us. We're very chaotic. So we're gonna try to go through this. In the middle, I like from the beginning to the
I'm
end.
sure there'll be some wondering, but we'll try.
Yeah. I'm trying. So the first thing that I started with was that I was like, thank God for the DVDs so that I can hear Bad Moon Rising playing. Because otherwise I would have had to probably watch something very terrible. Okay, Jess, was the music very terrible on Netflix, or were you able to watch a DVD?
Actually, I'm watching it on Prime, which is what it's on at the moment in the UK,
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, and they have Bad Moon Rising for the intro sequence.
I think by season 2 the issue is resolved. I think it's only season 1 that it is all of the music. I think there might be like 1 or 2 things later on, but it's only season 1 where they had the issue with the streaming rights
everything.
because they just didn't have to think about streaming rights when season 1 was filmed because this show is so old.
It's so old. Well, I'm sure they didn't have to think about streaming rights for like the first what, 7 years? I don't remember when streaming started, but it was like it wasn't
Yeah.
that long ago. But that's
Wow.
good to know. That's good to know. I mean, maybe they went
Yeah.
ahead and purchased like the music that was like necessary for the mood. They did not do that for season 1. But yeah, Bad Moon Rising. No. Yes, Bad Moon
Yeah, I
Rising.
was wondering, is it all the songs or is it just that this song is really important? Because I was like, of course, Bad Moon Rising is like a great song to have on that scene, but
We'll find
yeah.
out when we get to Heart and see if Silent Lucidity is there, because I do feel like it's important to Sam Girls, but I don't believe it would be important to like, the people whose stuff that is. So I'm interested to see it. But let's start by talking about how Sam is the only Winchester conscious and single-handedly has to save his entire poor family from further danger by threatening like a demon while he's like bleeding from the head and he's distraught. Like he can't hear his dad or his brother respond to his calls, and he has to like with his broken little arm like move the Colt to be like
Yeah, it's literally
I'd
like
still be
such
really threatening to that truck driver guy.
Yeah, like it's such an iconic scene because he's literally like playing chicken with a demon while like bleeding out and half unconscious, and
he has like a head trauma and all this stuff, and he's like, "Want to bet?" And I was like, I really believe he would waste that bullet on this man. Like he's had it.
Yeah.
He has had it.
I was going to say, as becomes apparent later, he's kind of over the mission at this point, right? He's like, this isn't a priority anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I do actually quite like that the season opener picks up directly where the previous season closed. I think this is, apart from maybe season 12 to 13, is that a direct one?
See, that one definitely did it, but I think season 4 to 5 does it as well.
Yeah, true.
Almost.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's not quite. I don't think it's quite as immediate, but yeah. But it's like one of the few ones that we get, and I think it's quite a rare thing in general for a TV show that ends on a cliffhanger. For the like cliffhanger resolution is actually quite satisfying because it's actually a really hard thing to do. And even though like the cliffhanger resolution of the car being slammed into is sort of resolved fairly fast, it then has consequences into the episode. Yeah. And then there were actually stakes because a character who, as far as we know, could have been kind of a major character dies by the end. Right. So it's unusual to actually pull that off. I'd say that a lot of like cliffhanger ending like beginning and endings on TV shows often do not pull it off.
I agree. I think that's why this episode works so much, because we talked about the ending of the first season and how, like, I think me and Elle talked about how usually there's a formula to the ending where it's like we are seeking this solution, we either fail or we achieve it, and then we're introduced to what we're going to start on the next season. And that is not how the series begins, because we don't have that at all. We get clobbered and then we have no idea what we're going to do, and then we start the new season and we continue to be like, wait, but what are we going to do? And I think the bait and switch, or like the big twist or the shock, like you were saying, Vic, that like we thought John was the point and now he's gone, it's just such a good, it's so well written. It's like such a good twist for the very beginning.
Yeah, it's really narratively satisfying. Like,
yeah. Well, and especially because
so well.
they kind of make you never fear for Dean's life, because at this point we don't know that they can just die and be resuscitated and like resurrected over and over again. But we figure he can't die. But we're watching and it seems the longer they go, they're convincing me that maybe he can die. Like, you know what I mean? And we haven't seen a Crossroads demon death yet, like where they trade live. We haven't seen that either. And so it's all a very interesting way to introduce the new trajectory of the world. Like, Dean doesn't die, but Dad does. And now we have this whole thing going on with demon deals. And that opens a whole can of worms. And I don't know, it's just so well done.
I was going to say, so my sister was watching this at the time when it came out as season 2. And speaking of streaming, was watching it like illegally on like some ancient streaming website from America, back in 2006, whatever it was. And
God love her. Well, that's such dedication.
But at the time when this episode aired, there was like a rumor going around in the fandom that Dean was going to turn into a ghost in this episode and just be a ghost forever. Like that was going to be kind of.
It's going to be being human instead of
people do
Yeah,
think
that's
he
what I was
died.
about to say.
Yeah.
now we're
basically.
just haunted roommates.
And then
so
Sam
people
could
did
have
think
got
he
Sam
could
could have
die.
got bitten by Madison, and then it really would have been being human. We just need
There
to
you
find a
go.
vampire.
Yeah, and they could keep her
Lenore,
around.
we'll recruit Lenore. She can be the vampire. There you go. Done.
Wow,
But
bless
yeah.
her heart. Well, old like original fan theories would be so fascinating for me to hear because obviously we couldn't experience that as I came in 9 years into the show or whatever it was. Or I think we all got current around the same time. So that's so fascinating to me. My next note is literally Dean is very fluffy in this episode. We historically love an injured hospital-laden Dean. Also, is
Literally.
Dean barefooting it around the hospital?
Yeah.
In his astral projected form, I suppose, but yes. Yeah, no, literally my first next note was, "Hi, Dean," with a little heart, and God, the fluffiest of fluffy ducklings. But also I was
thinking if we were
savouring...
ranking Dean's clothes, he would get a high rating for this episode.
Yes,
He's in his little ponytail.
100%. You're totally right.
I also
Jess.
said that I was like savouring the little like sweet high Dean voice, because season 2 again is like where he does actually start to shift into the lower voice as he like because it was a conscious decision that Jensen made as he's like taking on more of like John's position.
The John toxicity.
So, yeah. But his voice in this is so sweet. It's like all high and it's adorable.
I love him very much. I love it. I hate that every time I say how much I love him, it's like it's on an episode where he's nearly dying. I'm just like, oh, I swear this has nothing to do with it, but maybe a little bit it does. Like, little bit.
It makes him, that little bit more
He's vulnerable.
Yeah.
I was one of the things I wrote about that. I was like, it's just about like 0.2 seconds into the episode, and already you have Sam being like, Dean, and then Dean being like, Sam, like it takes about like 5 seconds for them to be like.
They're like, we need to see each other. We need to, we need to be able to like where we hold hands, whatever it is. It's like twins being
exactly.
separated. Yeah. But I thought it was very terrifying that they were care flighted. Like it's very when we talk about real world stakes, like this is the episode of all episodes of real world stakes for sure.
Yeah, and it took time, right? Because the crash is in the dark, and then by the time they're getting helicoptered out of there, it's like the daytime. So I was like,
I said that. I said, damn, they must have been out there bleeding out for hours because it was like light when they finally got, to the helicopter. Sam is screaming like, "Are they alive?" It's like, oh my God, he doesn't even know if they're alive. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting.
Yeah, and that poor truck driver who was possessed and then gets like unpossessed. It's like, oh my God, what happened?
He's like, damn, what did I do? Poor thing. So I call Dean like Ghost Dean throughout my notes until he's not Ghost Dean anymore. But I made note that he had to watch his poor baby brother, who was beat to hell, watch over his own body that's like intubated, and he's in his little bare feet as a ghost because he's like in a coma in a hospital bed, tucked into a blanket. And I said, I also cannot imagine why Sam didn't also need a bed himself. Like he was.
Maybe he had one for a bit, but we didn't like.
Yeah,
they sort of checked him out. We
haven't really been told the timeline. I guess that is true, but I said the doctor needs to work on his bedside manner. They're like, anyways, we'll see what happens with Dean. And Sam's like, sure, when he wakes up, we'll know more. And then the doctor goes, if. And it's like, dude, can you please, like, what's wrong with you?
I was thinking, and then he's got a cerebral edema. He doesn't explain what that is. I was like, you're really not doing the good patient relations.
He's like, you know what? You look like a guy who went to 3.5 years of Stanford, so I bet you know what this means.
I did think that the shot where they kind of have Dean round the corner and then see like his own body like hooked up to all the machines and stuff, I thought something about that was really good. Like the kind of sharpness of it, like it kind of like does a very hard cut from Dean to then like Dean in the bed.
Yeah, I love that. It's a really
Yeah.
beautifully shot episode. I
It's
think
a
I
Kim
made a
Manners
note.
episode.
I was gonna say this is so good. They were on
Yeah.
it. They were really on
Yeah.
it. And I wanted to touch on, I figure maybe we all have notes about Dean asking for some hoodoo priest magic to prolong his life. Because, this is like the first line in the longest argument the show makes, and maybe any show has ever made an argument for as long as this is a consistent conversation. And then Sam repeats the same line about the mojo, like in the next scene. And I don't know, like he says, I'm not sure if it would work, but I think like there's no choice but to act for him. And I don't know. I think that because of where the boys end up, like all of this dialogue is very, very loaded.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, number one, I was just like, Psychic Sam, I love and miss you every day.
I do.
But
I really
also
do.
I did note that even in this scenario, when Dean says, when he's like, hoping that Sam might be able to pick up on his thoughts or whatever, and he says, "You're the psychic," he somehow still manages to make the word psychic sound like a slur.
Like how you do that?
I think it's like that he puts like a very hard emphasis on the word and on the P of it. And I think it's mostly only notable because I'm sure we'll discuss this one more in the finale, but there is a whole like discussion that Sarah Gamble had where she wanted Dean to literally say like you're a psychic, but like in a way where it was very obvious that he was actually calling him a slur.
Like ew.
And Bob Singer was like, maybe we should make that slightly less harsh. And I'm Team Sarah on this one, but
Oh my gosh. No, I love Sarah for that. I love her for everything she did with Supernatural. But I do think it's important just to point out, like from the get-go, Sam, because of where this argument ends up, Sam literally feels like there's no other choice. Like he cannot entertain another outcome. Even when John points out, hey, this might not work. This might be it for Dean. Sam's like, no. Like he's, already fighting his dad, even though his dad is in a hospital bed, because it's just not something he can fathom. And I love okay, let's talk about this. I love that Sam points out literally what I was screaming all of season 1, where he's like, your son is dying and you're worried about the cult. I'm like,
yep.
This is my thesis statement for John from moment 1.
Yeah, I literally wrote "Get him, Sam" in all caps.
There's another thing later, like not that much after that, where when Dean is watching John and he's sort of saying, "Oh, John, you're not doing anything. Aren't you worried about me?" And he says,
"Yeah,
what the hell kind of father are you?" And I was thinking that you, Audrey, would be like, "Yeah,
a bad one."
Yeah.
My brand remains strong. A lot of
like
John hater.
Yep. I was gonna say, and then in like in that same conversation where Sam says about like, Dean's dying, you're thinking about the cult, is where like Sam very directly asks John about like, is there anything that he's thinking about or worrying about with regards to Sam? And like John's just like, nah. And then of course we get that like shot of Dean being like, hey, he knows something. But it's just, like Winchester patriarchs love nothing more than withholding information from Sam, like about Sam from Sam. And of course, like that becomes like a very, very core component of like the Johnification of Dean. So it's like it's very important that it's in this episode.
I loved that reveal of little ghost Dean over in the corner. Because it's just so odd, like we've only been around astral projection Dean for like a second, so it's easy to forget, and you're getting all this information about what's going on, and so you're kind of forgetting that that's an element of the story at this point, because you're trying to figure out like, okay, what can they do for Dean? Like, what do we know so far? Like, what is John thinking? What is Sam thinking? So when they reveal him in the corner, you're like, so he's like witnessing all this. I just thought it was really, really smart. But I also, this was one of my like heart eyes moments, probably it's going to factor into what I score this, is that at one point John is giving Sam instructions And Sam just has this look of disgust and like rolls his eyes and is like, dude, I've got the entire situation covered. Like he, in fact, is the only reason any of them even made it to the hospital in the first place. And he like, I got it. Like, what? It just made me so happy. They
When
wrote that
John's like,
in.
he's like, oh, you have to start what's going to happen with the car. You can't let them get to the trunk of the car. And he's like, yeah, Bobby's coming to pick up the car. Like, it's fine. Like,
He's like, I already have all of this taken care of because I'm not an idiot.
Yes.
yeah.
Because Sam is so pragmatic like that as well. Like I love that because it is a really good like example of his pragmatism, that even though he's so worried about everything that's going on, he's so like preoccupied about Dean. And Sam can also get extremely like single-minded focused on stuff as well, but in this scenario, like he also has the ability to be like very laser focused on, we need to like help Dean, but also at the same time he's taken the time to like call Dobby and sort out the car and make sure, like, you know, like he can compartmentalize in that way, and like he can be like, yeah, okay, I've got this practical stuff to do, but I also got to like laser focus on this too.
And I think that part of the way that he copes with bad situations is he gets into work mode, which
Yes.
I'm really bad at compartmentalizing. But if I'm in the middle of a situation, I immediately, that's where I go. And so I also I could also see it being part of the way that he like deals with stress is to say, what can I do to make sure this is going?
Yeah,
like,
I think he's very
go
like
well.
what's the phrase? Like, wait, he very like solution orientated. Like he's
Yes.
like, you've got to find like the solution to it, which is I hard relate.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that. And I love that his dad is like, well, did you do these things? These and blah blah blah. And he's like, duh. Like he's just like, what a dumb thing to ask me. Of course I did that. But
There's something as well, like John's just left them all to sort of sort themselves out for a whole season. Now John's back and he's like, oh, we have to do it this way, you know, and you're like, they've actually been handling stuff. Sam already handled Dean being about to die once without you, you know. He doesn't need you kind of throwing your weight around actually at this point.
yeah, well, and I mean, they're grown ups. You know, like he's still
Ish.
treating them like children, like, don't forget to do the most obvious thing. And Sam's like, I got it.
Yeah, so I have thoughts on this. This is the bit that I was like, I want to post this on Tumblr yesterday, but I
Yes!
resisted. I'm good.
We have pre-written meta ready to go.
No, I literally do. I put something in the drafts.
I'm interested to see what you're saying because I've got like a one-liner on what I think about this, which is like probably way less deep than what you've got.
I can't wait to hear.
You ready?
Ready? Can you hear us?
I can. Hi.
Hi. Do you remember Elle's voice, everyone? That's what she sounds like.
That's me.
That's her. So we were just talking about Bobby and the Impala. And so the thing I was gonna say, I think me and Jess should go, and then Vic has meta. And so what I had to say was, this is what I said. I said, God, I forgot the Impala was so destroyed. But like, of course it was because we watched it get T-boned, but like it is destroyed, which is very upsetting.
Yeah, I literally said like this is like the start of the ship of Theseus of the Impala. Like, like it is a ship of Theseus as car. And this is like the beginning of that.
And Sam even says if there's one piece that's workable.
Yeah. He's like, I can't give up the Impala because if I give up on that, it's giving up on Dean. And Bobby, he picks up on that so quick. He's so intuitive. And that's something I want to say about Bobby before we get too far into it and I forget, is that he's so the opposite of John. Like he's still a gruff, older male hunter, but like the way that he connects with the boys, you can tell there's empathy and compassion. And he is like, oh, okay. You know what? You're right. I got you. And like, Sam doesn't have to say another thing. He doesn't have to open up and get vulnerable. Bobby picks up on it and just says, okay. And the last thing I'll say before I'm going to toss it over to Jess about the Impala is that baby boy Sam immediately finds his laptop in the rubble.
R.I.P. stick his laptop.
I know.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have written down was R.I.P. Sam's laptop sideways.
Hey.
Geeky college laptop.
I know.
Well, actually, what I said I think I don't know how this is going to land with everybody else, given what you've just said about Bobby. But I said this is before Bobby gets annoying.
Yes, I agree.
Well, yeah, because by season 5, he's saying, "I like goodbye forever, Sam. I don't love you anymore," or something. Whatever he says in season 5, that's really mean. But like,
technically, that's when he's possessed by a demon. I'm gonna cut Bobby
Yes,
time.
let's clarify.
But he never says anything that
when he's under the influence of like a truth goddess in season 6.
Yes, that Dean is his favorite.
I always look at, so they were possessed, but it wasn't hard to believe it, was it?
Exactly.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Which is every time John Winchester is possessed, we always figure out that it's not him because he's too nice. And I think that's also very funny. Like something like that happens in this episode, I think, where they're like, wait a second. This can't be right.
Yeah, he starts.
Is that you?
He starts being nice to Dean, and Dean's very suspicious. Dean is like,
yes.
What do you mean?
His first thought is, wait a minute, is that actually you?
Yeah.
Yo, that's my biggest fear has always been if I forget to record.
Thank goodness you caught it then.
And then I just did it and Vic did this incredible like point making. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And now
you've all got to react as if you've never heard this before. It's
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yes, gasp.
I'm so excited for the meta.
Action. So sorry.
Okay, so yes. So I've been thinking about this because there's been discussion on the Dash recently on Tumblr about how there is a theme throughout the show of Sam being explicitly referenced to or compared to the Impala. And I, as I said before, I have a little photo set thing that I can send to Audree to put in the show notes, so you can all check it out. In fact, I believe one of our regular listeners is the one who put it together, so thank you to her.
We love her.
But so that's showing kind of lots of different times in which Sam is kind of put in this explicit comparison. And to me, really, like the crux of that is in season 7, where Sam is still out of it after he's had his he's been reintegrated with his soulless self and his hell self, and the wall is broken, and it's before he wakes up, and Dean is working on the Impala because the Impala has similarly also been trashed at that point. Dean's working on the Impala, and he very explicitly has this bit where he says, I'm going to work on the Impala until she's fixed. And then he says after that, and when Sam wakes up, I'll do the same to him. I will fix him no matter what state he's in. And then Sam in this scene, obviously this, as far as I can think, and I'm pretty much 100% sure that I'm correct on this, is the only time in which we ever see kind of the inverse of this, in which Dean is explicitly kind of paralleled to the Impala, in a very, very similar on the surface scene to the one in season 7, where the Impala is wrecked, it's being fixed, and Sam says that we're going to fix the Impala, and then makes it clear that he's really talking about fixing Dean. But it's really interesting because in this scene, Sam is explicitly acknowledging or giving voice to the idea that Dean is the owner of the Impala. And that creates a very, very different dynamic to where we see this with Dean, where the ownership of the Impala is also lying with Dean, but Dean is the one saying it about Sam, and therefore creating this dynamic of revealing the fact that Dean has this ownership, or he believes that he should have this ownership over Sam, over his body, over his autonomy and decisions. Whereas in this scene, Sam is acknowledging Dean as the owner of the Impala. So it's actually kind of like embodying that ownership of Dean and his own body and life within Dean himself. So I think that's like a really interesting dichotomy there. And then, and then also said, like, on the surface, the two scenes look very, very similar, but they, like, as well as having this different dynamic, also the way that the things are phrased are very different. So yeah, Audrey, you had a comment on like the
the
fiction. literally. So.
You nailed having to redo that, by the way. I'm so sorry I made you do that. No, I think I had mentioned too, like one of the things that I noticed when Vic was talking through it the first time was that with Sam, he's acknowledging the humanity of Dean and that, you know, it's not just a metaphor. I can't give up on it because that means I'm giving up on Dean, but also very practically, he doesn't want to give up on Dean being okay and that Dean is going to want the car after, you know, he wakes up and he's okay. And I think the inverse of that, like you were saying, with Sam in Dean's position needing to be fixed, quote unquote, or whatever, and Dean saying, we're going to do this no matter what, it kind of strips him of his humanity because it's more about the objectification of Sam and that he is another thing that Dean owns, Dean wants to control or needs to control to feel good. And that's why he phrases it like, no matter what state he's in, we're going to force it. In contrast to Sam saying, even with just a small piece of the Impala, we have hope that we can fix it. And that those two very closely related worded lines, like you were saying, like are inversely, like in spirit, completely different.
Yeah. One is dehumanizing them and the other to me isn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I think I said just before we cut off that I was very excited about this because I've seen a lot of discussion, and particularly recently, about this comparison, like this theme of the comparison between Sam and the car. But I don't think that I've ever explicitly seen someone pick up on this, like this being the only time that we ever see the inverse of that, and all the ways in which it's different. So yeah, and as I said, it's hard to have a new take about Supernatural in the year of our Lord 2024. So
yeah. Very astute.
If anyone wants to tell me that it's not a new take, please don't tell me. Let me have this. Let
her have it. Okay. She had to tell us the thought 2 times.
She's earned it. She's earned it.
I'm so sorry.
I came to it independently. It came from my brain, so that's what matters.
Jess, what were you gonna say when I cut you off and said, "Oh, I wasn't saying."
It wasn't very deep. I was just kind of commenting on what Vic had said about the line of season 7 about whatever state Sam is in, and it has that kind of at least he dies human energy.
You're so right.
To me, it feels like one of them, if there's any part that works, we're gonna save the car / Dean, is hopeful versus whatever Sam ends up as, or at least he dies human, is like I'm giving up on saving Sam. I'll just take Sam as broken as he is. As long as he's alive, I'm happy, and that's what matters.
Yeah,
you nailed it.
And if he does die, at least he dies human. So at least,
which is also what Dean wants.
Yep. Or at least he dies in
And
within
he has a similar thing in the Gadriel situation as well, where there's a very similar line. Then sorry, I'm sorry, I should have brought.
No,
up
you're right.
Gadriel.
I can't wait for us to get. Okay, everyone listening, what you're getting right now is just like a sweet sampling of the shit talk you would get if you subscribe to our Patreon, because on our Patreon we're just gonna like open it up. We're gonna be a lot less
by the way, don't worry, I have more like thoughts later on that's like something else that I could easily write a meta onto. So
well, the shrieking that you guys could subscribe to is I love it. So I'm just saying we are holding back on the main pod, I promise.
If you like shrieking.
Yes.
And who doesn't, honestly.
And who doesn't?
If you want a preview, just check out all of our Tumblrs from between 2014 to 2017.
Oh my God.
Just turn on the Raptor. What is it? The Fellowship of the Raptor like music, Jess? I'll have to link that. It's so funny.
I uncovered my season 11 wish list the other day that I recorded as a voice note at 2 a.m. It's absolutely unhinged. It's so funny. And I had to share it. And I was like, you know what? Part of me is like, maybe we were slightly hyperbolic back in the day, but I feel like if you're new to the fandom and you didn't live through like very explicitly that period of like 2014 to 2016,
the Tumblr era,
you don't know, man. We were fighting. We were like in the trenches.
We were fighting for our lives freaking week.
That conversation I was telling you about today in chat, where I can't believe I had that conversation in 2024. And I was like, I'm sorry if I was a little short, but you have to understand.
We can't get into that here. But
just had flashbacks to the war on Tumblr from 10 years ago. So I apologize. I was in the trenches.
By the way,
we can get triggered.
By the way, my first thing on the wish list, like for season 11, was Dean apologizes to Sam, and then the next thing I said was, I don't care what he apologizes for at this point, just anything. Someone else who was around at that time literally like posted something where they were like, in 2014 Tumblr, Dean apologizes to Sam with some sort of like hopeless prayer. And it's like, yeah, it's so true.
To this day, yeah. Let's get back on track. Okay. Love you all, but I have to get back to the voice on. So we get a wide angry wingspan out of Sam as he tells his father to fuck off. Yeah. And I know that they set Sam up here to be wrong later, but I don't know what the fuck else he's supposed to think his dad is doing. When his dad has done nothing but act weird and cagey about everything, very cryptic. It's totally believable that he is still, even as Dean is dying, it's believable that he is still trying to work this case. And so I do think the narrative is a little bit trying to set Sam up to have to feel bad, like, oh, don't you feel bad, your dad sacrificed himself for your brother? No, because they would never expect that to be true.
It's so completely emblematic though of the Winchester family dynamic and the way in which Sam experiences his entire life this othering from his family, that he's always on the outside. Like that entire conversation I think is really, really like emblematic of that, because it's literally like John keeping him just outside of that realm of like actually being able to know what's going on. Really crucial to Sam's everything.
Yeah, and we wonder why Dean feels the need to control so much, and it's because as a child, he's grown up, and John says it in this fucking episode. Dean has grown up having to comfort his father, having to keep the peace between his dad and his brother, having to be treated as, I said eldest daughter Dean, like the older...
Audrey, do not go into eldest daughter Dean, please.
I think it's funny. It's a funny thing, but like at the same time, like I get where it comes from. It's a fallacy, but at the same time, like John literally says, I treated you like an adult, and you shouldn't have been treated that way. And in the same conversation, John blames Sam for Dean being in a coma, like because Sam didn't. I'm sorry, Check's notes kill John when he was a demon. You're blaming your only, like, right now living son for the possible death of your older son because he wouldn't shoot you and kill you? Like, this man is deranged. I've never, what are we doing? Straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
I was going to say, this is kind of jumping ahead a bit, but it's like, to do with that conversation where John is saying to Dean all this stuff like, oh, I used to come home really fucked up, and then you'd have to sort of say to me, oh, Dad, it's okay, and I shouldn't have ever put that on you, and I really apologize, and that was a terrible parenting. And then immediately at the end of that conversation, he then tells Dean,
I have thoughts about that as well.
Oh yeah,
that's at the very, very end.
A fresh burden of knowledge. I'm just like,
great, cool. Undo that whole thing.
That's exactly. Oh my God, so funny. That's exact. I bet we all have a similar note about that. But you're absolutely right. Like John can never do a thing that's nice unless he's about to die, or he's a demon, or he's about to die and ruin his son's life with one sentence. I think the next thing I wrote was like, Sam says, go to hell. And I was like, haha, I see what you did.
Yes, exactly. I was like, yes. And then he does.
And then he does. Thank God. Free us from this man.
Sam says it happens. It's amazing.
Yep.
And it's like he's psychic or something.
Exactly. I will say it's so notable to me as well, the way that John very deliberately tries to play on bringing up Mary and Jess in the scene in order to try and reel Sam back in, and also you begged me to to be a part of this hunt, and it's like, did he though? I'm not really sure that that's exactly what happened in the end of season 1.
I mean, by the end of season 1, I don't know that he begged John, but
No.
he definitely like reconvinced Dean.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think that is definitely some like historical revisionism from John of the, like, you
100%.
begged me to join this
Oh
club.
yeah.
And then he of course he then uses that to say like I should never have taken you along in the first place.
Such
Which
a
of course,
dick.
again, it's like it's such
True,
like,
actually. True, actually. You should have left your sons with an actual parent.
yeah.
Shocking.
But also
Go all the way back to birth. That's true.
He's making it one, Sam's idea,
Mhm.
and two, Sam's fault.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
by doing
He's
that. That's what he's doing.
Gaslighter McGee. I fucking hate that
Yeah.
guy. Hate him so much.
But also, I'll
Gaslighter
point
Mickey.
out that John says about like you couldn't shoot me. You should have shot me. And like
He's
not
like, if
say
you had,
Dean.
none of this would have even happened. And it's
But
like,
John wasted a bullet killing the vampire in Dead Man's Blood in order to save his sons. So he's
we
just a hypocrite.
we cannot talk about anything that John has done. It can only be all the things that Sam has done wrong.
Yeah, don't you know the Winchester credo? It's only Sam that does
It's all
things
Sam's fault.
wrong.
Okay, do we want to talk about Tessa?
Mm.
Because let's be real, I really like Tessa a
Yeah.
lot. I think she's a
I
really
like her a lot.
cool female character. I like that they explain Reapers a little bit better. Because I remember when we had the Reaper episode to begin with, which was Faith, I was like, do they always look like this? And I think, Vic, you were like, no, they changed things. And then later they changed things even worse. But I like this take where, like, if they need to, a Reaper can like try to soft launch death with people having a hard time with it. And I
Yeah.
thought it was a really nice way to kind of get to know the way that Dean views his life. And one of the notes I put about that is that he truly believes that if he dies, his family will die. Like, he feels so much pressure for whatever it is. And it's obviously a thinking error. Like, he needs to go to therapy. It's not true. Like, if he dies, his family will survive. But he really believes if he were to die, my family will die. And I don't know. It made me feel really sad for him.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually, it is interesting to me. Yeah, I do like the explanation that they give for why Tessa looks different, and the true form thing, and like that all kind of makes sense. But it is very notable to me. So, as a Star Trek fan, my thought immediately goes to the fact that in Star Trek there is a very well-known phenomenon that is literally been admitted to, that if you have an alien design and then they cast a hot woman, they will either adjust that alien design so it obscures less of her face, or they will make her like half that alien, like Belana Torres in Voyager, where she just has like little tiny forehead wrinkles instead of like a big Klingon prosthetic.
Oh yeah,
and
they're like, no, we have to make her pretty.
Yeah, and my brain immediately goes to, I'm pretty certain that's part of the reason why Tessa looks like that and not like the Reaper in the other one. I think it's also just like, if you're going to then start introducing Reapers more and whatever, like, it does make sense for them to be...
Well, it's less CGI and they don't have a huge budget.
Yeah. But also Supernatural has a massive problem with, as a shared post with the other day, like, all the monsters are just some guy.
All the monsters are just some guy, and then most of the victims are like all women. Like, if a woman is introduced, she's probably gonna die. But I was glad to see Tessa didn't die. At first I was like, is Tessa gonna die? But no, she just gets...
She's brought back to die in season 9 though, so don't worry.
Right. We'll get there. Of course. In time, every woman dies. But like, this is my question. I didn't know demons can possess Reapers, apparently.
I made a note of that too.
Yes.
Who knew?
So why don't they do it more often, like later? Like, Reapers are not...
Because it's gobbledygook.
They don't do it to Death himself.
Oh my god.
Which is a good...
You can imagine.
I did also think that this does very explicitly, I think, to me, clash with the idea that the later retcon of Reapers being angels.
Yeah.
Not because of the dual possession, because we do see that like Lucifer manages to possess Cass, but at the same time as Cass being in Jimmy Novak's dead corpse. So like,
I don't even want to wait.
Dual possession, and you know, Sam has Gadriel and Crowley possessing him at the same time. So dual possession clearly is a thing, but it's made fairly clear, I think, that Tessa's like form is her, and not her possessing she's not possessing the body of that girl.
No.
She just
She
makes
has
herself look like it.
made herself look like. In fact,
Yeah.
has she even? She's made Dean see her as that. That's
Because
Yeah, exactly.
she is still
Yeah.
in her true form. It's just that Dean sees her as that.
And so she's
Yeah.
like, I got to be a hot brunette so Dean will pay attention to me.
Which, I mean, yeah.
It
works.
She knows
I mean-
what's up.
It works.
It worked.
Yeah.
Well, Sam doing Ouija with the ghost Dean is so cute. He's so
Yes!
I
resourceful.
love that.
I mean, that's such an iconic, like, Sam
Yeah,
Dean
I
scene,
like
isn't
that.
it?
It's
I
like
love
that's
that scene so much.
Yeah.
And I felt like when Sam and him are talking and Dean kind of goes, thanks for not giving up on me, Sammy. It's so sweet, but it's also really sad to me because I believe in that moment Dean believes his father has given up on him.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I can't imagine how that feels. And he's just like, you would never give up on me, Sam. And I think that's so sweet.
Not to interrupt the like sweet brothers feels, but did any of you catch the little like auditory Easter egg just before that scene?
No, I don't know.
Over the hospital intercom, somebody pages Dr. Kripke.
Shut up, girl.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, I just thought that was
funny.
really fun, so I had to bring it up.
I love that. No,
I
I
thought that was
missed
cute.
it. I missed it completely. Damn.
I was just gonna bring up how much I like in this episode multiple times where Dean gets to witness how people behave when he's not around. So he gets to witness a full-on fight between Dad and Sam without the like peacemaker aspect.
Yeah, I have comments
where
on the peacemaker
Sam
stuff.
full on just tells him to go to hell and
Mhm.
and then when Sam leaves, I love that shot where we kind of pivot around John and we
Mhm.
see that Dean has been standing there that whole time.
Yeah.
And Dean is
Yeah.
kind of like, you know something, you old bastard. Like he
Yeah, we
is getting
mentioned
to
that
see
earlier.
these
Such a good
pieces
little
of
shot.
people that he doesn't normally get to see because everybody modifies their behavior when they're around someone else.
Yes.
And I love that. I feel like he gets a better view into
Mhm.
both Dad and Sam's relationship and
Yeah.
how Sam truly feels about him. Like he is like he
I'm not
has
sure-
also just been in a terrible car accident. He's probably got broken ribs and shit. Like
That's what I said. I said, why doesn't he have a bed?
I'm not
and
sure
you know
how
what?
well
I
it
think he
sticks,
wouldn't use
but-
it. I think he would be
I think
sitting
you're
by
right.
Dean's bedside the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
they
agree.
should have given him a bed just to nail that point home that he would just be by Dean's bedside. And Dean knows that
Yeah.
for a while.
Well, I really
Mhm.
love how you came at this, Elle, because we did talk about it earlier, but you came at it from like a narrative standpoint, which I think, of course you do, because you're a writer. And I love that you notice like what is the narrative exercise here that we get to see this character is in a new situation. And I love that you kind of brought up the characterization of Dean is going to have a different experience not being under the pressure of the peacekeeper and kind of seeing things from that end. I think whenever kind of in the same vein, when we're downstairs with the yellow-eyed demon and John and the boys are not there, we get another side of like a revelation of like he's willing to die for his boys. But the demon even says, if only your boys knew how much their dad loved them. He literally said that. And I'm thinking like, yeah, and they're never gonna really get to know that because
And I think that ties into in episode 2 where we learned that like John has talked to Ellen about the boys, but the boys I think maybe have just never met her. I don't think it's like a situation with Bobby where they knew her when they were little, but you know, like because
I
they
think
don't seem to have any.
John has never
Yeah.
mentioned Ellen
Yeah.
or Joe like at
No,
all.
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
like I think that little scene is like an interesting peek again into like the Winchester family dynamics. And particularly like this idea of Dean as a peacekeeper between like an arguing John and Sam. So I think it's like worth noting that he is trying to peacekeep, but in similar to how we've seen in a previous incident in the end of last season, he's getting like increasingly agitated himself throughout the scene, and it culminates him in smashing a glass, which like Dean smashing things when he's angry becomes again a theme, and he often starts to then do it as a bit of an intimidation thing, like in front of people when he's angry. And this is not a criticism of Dean, because obviously Dean is a traumatized person who grew up, you know, and like it's clear that this is the dynamic that was going on when they were kids as well.
And right now he's a ghost.
But it's more about like dispelling the fandom myth of him as this like completely like calming, peacekeeping force at all times. Like he's just as caught up in all of this cycle of anger as anyone else. Also in a lot of ways. So I think it's interesting, because he is what his goal is peacekeeping, but he actually himself in the scene is getting angry and actually kind of feeding into that. So
Jess, what were you going to say about John and the Demon?
First small comment was to say that guy is still getting cast as villainous characters and everything. I was just watching a show that like
he's super
this evening
good at it.
with him as like a bad guy in it. But the main thing was that the Demon says to John, "Oh, you know about Sam and those other kids, you know," and John says, "Yeah, I've known for a while now." And I always think it's so interesting, like, what does for a while mean? Like, how long is the while? Like, is it like
that's like one of the biggest questions, I would say, is how long has he known that, and how much did that affect like the way he treated Sam?
And like when he checked up on Sam at Stanford, like was he thinking of the thing he knew, or you know? And...
I mean,
exactly.
The published John Winchester's journal thing has it that he knows that something's going on from quite early on, because they have like demons and soothsayers and lunatic albinos after Sam.
So I have a question about that, because Sam explicitly takes John's journal to read through the entire thing and see if there's anything that could help Dean. And I'm like, if John's journal, I know it's not really canon, but it's kind of. And do we know that he didn't write anything about Sam?
I've always assumed there's actually two journals. I think there's like a hunter's journal and then a diary.
Oh, I never assumed that. Because I think when they're reading through it, sometimes they're like, here's monsters, and sometimes here's Sam took his first steps. He walked toward Dean.
Guess so.
He didn't pick up a gun, even though he was a toddler. I hate my son.
I don't know if Sam's going to become the kind of killer I want him to be.
That's all from the published version, though. That's not.
That's not in the
TV show.
So what's the difference? It's a companion.
I think
you should read it. It's actually very interesting as a like.
I thought he took his first steps. He walked toward Dean was in the show.
No,
I don't think so.
I can hear it in his voice.
It gets canonized, because there's certain bits that people like or don't like, but
people love it. Like if you're like when there's like Dean is Sam's mum people, then you love that. Like
still, I can't imagine he didn't write something about the stuff that was after Sam in that book.
Yeah,
but maybe like Vic says, maybe he's got like the secret John version, and then he's got the hunting manual version. And when he left, because he leaves that for the boys.
He does all the time.
Why is this guy
so
journaling so much? Like,
he's got to get his feelings out.
He's got his fifis.
He's got to deal with his feelings.
He's like, I'm gonna put this thought in this pretty journal and this thought in this other journal.
I had one other thing to say about Dean and Tessa's conversation. When she explains to him how angry spirits come into being, she says, you'll become a ghost. You'll become something you hunt.
And yes, I have something explicit on this as well. Yeah, probably the same thing. But
I was like, ooh, I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah,
it's like his worst nightmare. It's Dean's worst nightmare.
It's so relevant. It's so relevant to Dean, because the thing that she is explicitly frightening him with into trying to get him to accept his death and come with her is the threat of you will become something that you hunt. Like, it's very explicit that she says it that way.
Yeah.
And like Dean and his fear of the monstrous, and it like disrupts his very like strict place that he has hunters living in, which is the idea that hunters are like the arbiters and executioners of the monstrous.
Yeah.
And the idea that a human spirit can become a monster disrupts that. Like, that's too fluid, and that's like disrupting.
He
that
wants
hard
it to be a
line.
dichotomy.
It
Yeah.
needs to be us and them. Because apart from anything else, like, I don't think we've explicitly talked about this, but like the fundamentals of Supernatural is that it's a cop show, and that it's
It's a
built
procedural.
on, and it's built on some extremely like of a post 9/11 world. Like, fundamentally, that's what's going on here, and that's why we have this dichotomy of the us versus them.
Damn.
And that hunters buy into it so strongly because like they need that
Well,
to maintain.
And the whole
Why they're
vibe
doing
of the
hunting.
show is very like Gen X, toxic masculinity. Like,
Yes.
I was raised with dirt and like that was actually just abuse. Like, and so like I definitely get like
Kripke not allowing them to have umbrellas because it's not manly enough.
my
So
God.
fucked up, by the way.
Oh, it's crazy to me that Kripke is who he is now. Just based on like what he has said about his show now, and just like
The boys,
and how he really goes to bat for the women on his set. I'm so grateful for that. It is very funny to know the origins though, and be like, wow, he had to do a lot of growing, because it is just like a boys club at Supernatural, from top to bottom, from how they write it to how they act to the behind the scenes stuff. It's just a boys club.
I was gonna say, I think that's partly Bob Singer as well, though.
Absolutely.
Like, I think he's a big influence on that vibe, and I think after Kripke leaves, he gets even more powerful, because he's like the original guy that's still there, and then it gets even more in that direction.
And they run Sarah Gamble off in 6.
But I was gonna say, like, in terms of like the kind of like boys club, or like the masculinity of the show, like famously there was, I can't remember which writer it was, but there was a writer who very explicitly said that they found writing for Soulless Sam easier than writing for Regular Sam, because Regular Sam was too emotional and Soulless Sam was more like a normal guy.
Oh my God, guys.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna have
Who
to
thinks that
screenshot
Soulless Sam is
all of our
normal
faces.
guy?
He's a sociopath.
It was, I've heard that as well.
I love Soulless Sam, but
I'll
he
find
is
the quote. I'll find it.
Yeah. Find who it was so we can roast them.
If you think that's normal, there's something wrong with you. He literally doesn't have a soul.
Yeah.
But I do think this stuff about like the cop showness of it, which Vic is talking about, though, like
the procedural
Kripke does kind of challenge that a bit, because he has Sam, right, who's constantly saying, well, you know, it's not as straightforward as that. And I think in the next episode 3 of this season, they have that whole conversation, right? And then
yes, absolutely.
I'm so excited.
I think one of the things that gets worse as the show goes on is they get much more cavalier about killing the monsters and stuff, and they actually do less complication of that. So season 15, even, there's a terrible episode where they just like blow up a bunch of monsters who are kind of just because they're monsters, and they're not really doing anything, like, and they're like, hooray, great day's work, well done, and you're like, no, you just like genocided people.
I hate that aspect of the evolution of the show. I do not like it.
I do think that some of the underlying, like, even from the beginning, problem with the like complication of it and the use of Sam for that is that the narrative even from the beginning is mostly slanted towards Dean and Dean's point of view. So it's kind of like the narrative will almost always come back round to Sam is incorrect about that complexity. Well, even
because
early on in the show,
the oversimplification of it in the first place is always going to be, and I'm not trying to be annoying, but it is rooted in toxic masculinity. And if you have an entire writer's room and a show running team that is just dudes being dudes, it is going to automatically well, she got kicked off. They got rid of her in season 6. And so when it comes down to it, if the people in charge are due to buy into that, it is easier for them to simplify things into, well, let's just blow them up with a gun and
Do
murder
you
them.
know how young Sarah was, by the way, when she came onto the show?
She had to have been very young.
She's like 22, 23.
Because she's in her 40s now, and she's incredible and running other shows. But my point is,
being
in
like
the
one of the only women in that room.
I would rather die.
Young.
I would rather die. And that young, my God. And the fact that it does they simplify everything down to and that's what toxic masculinity is at the end of the day, is an oversimplification to our lowest common denominator, so that men don't have to like try to be multidimensional. They are, you know what I'm saying? And therefore, when they do get rid of all the good stuff for Sam, and they do just get rid of all of the complexities of what is a reaper, what is an angel, what is a demon, what are all these things, they're like, nah, it's just gonna go down to let's shoot the bad guys and we're the good guys.
It's not human, it dies.
Goodbye forever. And I'm sorry if that's me being an absolute bitch about shit, but I would say I could like boil my thesis down for the downfall of Supernatural, like why it stops being good, is because they have no women anywhere that matters.
You know, it's interesting that you say that in conjunction with this oversimplification issue, because it was a huge issue. I want to say like starting in season 9 even, that the boys had gotten boiled down to Dean likes pie and drinks beer and hunts, and Sam is a girl, basically. He has salad. Like it's
likes to eat apple.
He health run sad. Like that's
he have feeling.
He have feeling, not real man. As women. So it's interesting because that was a big complaint all over, well, the Sam part of the fandom. The Dean part seemed to be fine with it.
I think luckily for us that Jared just spends a lot of time doing like a huge amount of stuff in the
facial expressions.
Yeah.
Yes. He does a lot of background work.
He gets an award for his facial expressions.
But
from that scenery, baby.
And hand movements.
Just do
hand movements.
Right. But from the writing standpoint,
yeah,
it really was. They are just getting boiled. That they became caricatures of themselves, and it's supposed to go the other way around. You start as an archetype, and then you start getting details, and you become more of a character, more of a realistic person as the writing goes on. And it wasn't happening this way.
It's kind of a thing in TV shows, though, right? Especially long-running TV shows, and especially where there's, I don't know if, well, in this case, I think especially because the showrunners change and you have people that are less, like, they don't want to mess with the formula. But it's like, it's called Flanderization, isn't it? Like, that's the whole thing, where a character becomes kind of boiled down to, like, specific traits, and then that's
a stereotype.
And that's it. And that's it. That's all they are. But for our two main characters, I mean,
it's sad.
Put a little effort. If I was on the writing team...
I think it's an inevitability of 15 seasons. Like, no television show needs 15 seasons.
If they had injected different writers, I know 10 big writers off the top of my head who would have written better season-long arcs. I'm sorry. I'm gonna.
Elle has written
I'm
an entire season of Supernatural called Bloodstruck, which, if you subscribe to our Patreon, we will read as an audiobook as its own podcast. So please like and subscribe. You'll hear more of the shrieking too, as well.
I'm going to make one small comment, which is that this is a great conversation, but we might want to finish episode 1.
I know. I need to. I know. I'm so sorry, girls.
You could keep me going till 4 a.m. at this point.
Jess is growing a child. She needs to rest.
She needs rest.
Exactly.
So, I did my best excuse. Who wants to take on that? I can.
Oh yeah, I do have note. Let me find it.
My best.
But you go first, Audrey.
So when John and Sam are talking, like Sam's like, "Where were you last night? Were you off being a terrible dad? Because guess what? All you've ever done is be a bad dad." And so, of course, that's what I think. And then the narrative, you can tell, is supposed to make him feel bad for it, because John's like, "I'm so earnest right now. I just don't want to fight anymore." And he's like, "I did my best." And Sam's like, "Are you okay?" Like, he's like, I've never seen you like this.
What I said though to the I don't want to fight anymore. Number one, he has the half the time we fight and I don't know what we're fighting about, and it's like absolutely screw you, John. Like, because again, that's like putting the blame onto Sam. That's implicitly implying that like Sam is the one who's like stirring things
picking
up.
fights.
Yeah, and John just doesn't know what's going on and it just happens to him. But then like it's also like I don't want to fight anymore, and it's like, well then you apologize. That's how you don't fight anymore. Like,
how about don't be a dick?
Take responsibility.
Yeah. And it's extremely notable that John does that entire scene where he never once uses the word I'm sorry.
No, he's so manipulative.
And then the next scene that we get is him explicitly apologizing verbally to Dean using the word I'm sorry. Like, again, it's this like the otherizing of Sam. He's always just on the outside. His dynamic with Dean is not good or healthy either, but he's not othered in that way.
He brings Dean in probably the worst way he could have brought Dean even closer. He says
Sam is too outside and Dean is too inside.
Yeah, he says, "Don't be scared, Dean."
Anyways, here's something very scary.
To tell him the most terrifying thing Dean could possibly hear.
And then die.
And then he
dies.
He drops dead. He's like, don't be afraid, little guy. Anyways, here's some horrifying news. Keep it a secret, and croaks. And I also want to be very clear. Did I sound like a politician just then? Let me be very clear on this. Okay? Yeah. I've been watching too many like Tim Waltz videos where let me be very clear. So, oh my God, whenever this is airing, by the way, we will have a new president. And I'm very upset about it. I might throw up. Okay. So, anyways, John tells Sam, hey dude, go give me some coffee. And Sam's like, okay, man, I got you. And then he immediately turns and has the most heartfelt like conversation with Dean ever. So Dean gets a goodbye. Dean gets, I'm sorry. Dean gets, you should have never been raised like this. Sam gets, dude, you really do be fighting. Can you get me some coffee? That's it.
Really do be fighting.
And we know for a fact that the fact that Sam didn't ever get a resolution to that last fight, which is not really a fight, haunts him. And it doesn't just haunt him into the next episode or the rest of the season. It literally haunts him like all the way to the end of the show.
It becomes part of his DNA.
They have that episode in, is it like season 14 where they bring John back?
It might
for
even
an
be
episode?
50.
It's late.
15. Yeah.
It's late, and
I
Sam
forgot they come back.
Sam has this whole conversation with John where he says like, when I think of you, I don't think of our fights or whatever. Like, I think of the fact that I never got to like say goodbye, and the last thing that I did was argue with you. And it's
got
just
to
like,
say goodbye or chose not to say goodbye.
He literally sent you out of the room so you couldn't say goodbye. Like, Sam couldn't say goodbye.
It clearly haunts Sam for the rest of the show, and it also is kind of the impetus for Sam's like dynamic that we see starting to happen in the next episode, where for the rest of the show he recontextualizes him and John's relationship to Sam being the one who's more at fault.
Yeah, he does really start doing that.
Yeah, because it's the only way he can cope with it. But I did also say after that scene, I was like, killing John with hammers, and then put brackets, yes, I know he's about to die anyway, but I'm still doing it.
During that scene, though, he does say that Dean never complained about having to take care of Sam. I know some SpaghettiOs who feel differently.
Tell that to my SpaghettiOs.
Right?
But again,
maybe
John
he didn't complain
there.
To John.
He probably didn't. He was probably too busy saying yes, sir.
I think it's a very important factor again of like all of their dynamics, that as much as John's presence was harmful, his absence was actually like most of the relationship.
Yeah.
So John did not see a lot of what was going on.
That's true.
Between them at any one time. And actually, I think in some ways the absence is the thing that's like the more damaging to both of them in the long run, because
100%.
it leaves two small children.
I still find it hard to believe that like an 8-year-old wouldn't complain. Like, I have a 5-year-old.
He absolutely did.
He's complaining.
He do be
I
complaining.
Still, I know he's trying to say like a sweet thing to Dean and blah 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 blah.
It just feels manipulative. I feel like he's
Yeah.
buttering him up so he can tell him that last thing. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm not
exactly the
explaining
only
it at all.
reason. Yeah,
Mm.
it's the only reason he's saying all the positive things.
Fucked up. It's so fucked up. But I did write fucking finally free of John Winchester, but not the trauma that he leaves in his wake.
No, that's
I mean,
the whole
we'll see a bit of him, but yeah, mostly he's gone.
Mostly he's gone. He's gone.
Do you guys want to do
I
final thoughts on this episode, and then we can rate it and stuff?
I was just gonna say that I do really love the way that like the scene where Sam discovers John's body is shot. Just
Yes, I have that comment too.
That's another really good bit of like Kim, like it's such a Kim Manners like. I literally wrote like Kim fucking Manners. I miss you so much.
Like the coffee drops in
the
slow
coffee
motion.
drops
The composition
perfectly.
of it,
He runs the angle of his body, the way he slides
That's what I was
down.
gonna say. It's the angle of the body, and then the way that like you get that shot that pans where it's like looking upwards at Sam's face. Then it switches to the coffee as it drops, and then it stays in that frame of the coffee.
And I love the lid popping off.
Beautiful.
And the
beautiful.
coffee's in focus, and then they slightly focus into
it's
so
perfect.
I love it.
Perfect.
I love it and I hate it, and it plays on repeat in my head.
Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah.
I have a final thought of my own, which kind of goes along with Vic's, what Vic was talking about earlier about how this kind of starts a dynamic of the Winchesters. From the narrative point of view, it also, well, I don't know if it starts here, but it definitely becomes like a thing here where the narrative gives Sam every reason to believe one thing and then makes him wrong in the end. The narrative does that over and over and over.
Yeah, when I said that earlier about that they're setting Sam up to be wrong, I thought of that conversation that we had where there's no other reason for Sam to think this. Of course he thinks this, but it's still setting him up to be wrong.
Any normal person would think this.
I thought it.
And in a lot of the cases, it's Dean going, no, it can't be that. It's this thing that will end up being proven right, even though he has no reason to believe that. Like,
right. Totally.
That's my final thought.
All right, let's rate this episode. Again, this is one of those, it feels really quaint to rank the wardrobe of this episode because it's such a devastating episode.
Yeah, it's not really a wardrobe heavy episode.
Let's just get that out of the way because it is very silly to do that. But hey, we have a format on this podcast despite all the chaos. You might have forgotten. But we have our 4 descriptors: horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, terrible, but great. Let's start with Jess. Jess, what did you think of the wardrobe tonight on this episode?
Sam's wardrobe, he basically just wears the same outfit for the whole time in this, isn't he? Mostly, he's like his shirt and his little jacket. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's probably adorable. It's not. I don't think it's even terrible but great. It's not even notable enough to be that. It's fine. Like it's cute.
Adorable.
It's not its worst or best outfit.
Yeah,
it's fine. Adorable.
Yeah. I rated it adorable. I don't like that beige jacket. It's no Carhartt jacket. But the hair brings it up for me because I do love
it's tufty.
Like in terms of like the early season hair, like it's way better than any hair that he has for the whole of season 1 because it's so like shaggy and floopy. I love it. I have more to say about it in the second episode because I think it gets even better in episode 2, and then
it really does
forever. But it had a beautiful swan song.
Sorry. Adorable. Just a flat adorable.
Yeah,
I did too. I said specifically adorable because Hi. Who's that? Hi, cute.
My name is Tackle.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna mute us.
Okay. I said adorable because I generally think in terms of like the whole thing because like Dean's 3 shirts really bothered me last season. So I thought it was only fair to say it was adorable because of how cute and fluffy he was in his scrubs and his bare feet. And, you know, Sam is going to look how Sam looks because he was in that car wreck. And I can't imagine that he had much else to change into. And he looked fine. But I really loved Dean's like little fluffiness. And it's one of the last moments he's fluffy, to be honest. We got to celebrate it. All right, so let's do Sam Girl Friendly scale. I have not expanded I need to expand this shit so that I can, damn.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
you've got more hosts
Damn.
to
I
include
know I
now.
have more hosts now. So we have a scale from 1 to 5. So we got screen time, we have Sam Fan Joy, and then we have heart eyes. So we'll just go in the same order as we did before. Screen time, Jess, what did you rate it on a scale from 1 to 5?
I feel like it's more of a Dean episode than a Sam episode.
Mm-hmm.
So although the Sam stuff is good, I think probably like a 3.5 because of that, because I feel like it's really a Dean episode.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Okay, I love that, Jess. That's a good reason. Vic, what did you rate it for screen time?
Yeah, similar reason. I rated it slightly higher. I give it a 3.8. But
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely more of a Dean centric. But I think the Sam that's in it is really good, and the like Sam and Dean moments are great. So yeah, I think it's like it's good, but it's not, it can't get to the lofty heights because it is more of a Dean episode.
Yeah. And Elle, what did you rate it for screen time?
I did just a straight 4
Cool.
because I like the Sam that was on the screen.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, yeah.
I always love the
Always.
Sam on the screen. No, I said 4.5. I have a thing where like if the screen time of Dean somehow does speak towards the brother relationship and therefore affects
Ooh.
Sam, like I can't help but rate it higher. That's probably a flaw for me. But I just also feel like while we have the time to feel happy about Dean's screen time, I gotta celebrate it. And so that's why I gave it kind of a little higher than maybe I probably should have.
I like it.
All right, let's hear Jess, what about like enjoyment?
It's tricky because it's really enjoyable, but also in a very angsty kind of aggravating way, like all of the
Right?
fighting with John and that kind of stuff.
I
So
know.
it's kind of, it's probably maybe a 3.8, I
Mhm.
think, because I enjoy
Okay.
it, but it's too like it's too sad, like it's too angsty, it's frustrating. I feel like Sam is being kind of kept out of things, and
Mistreated.
yeah, and that's, so yeah, 3.8.
That's how I usually am when it's a John episode. All right, Vic, what did you say for enjoyment?
Yeah, I gave this a 4.5. Like I think it's an enjoyable episode. I think that even though, as I said, it's more of a Dean centric one, I think that the Sam stuff in it is really meaty, and there's a lot to think about.
Definitely
in terms
agree.
of his like relationship with John and the broader Winchester family dynamics, which I always really enjoy thinking about, even though they also make me feel slightly insane.
No, so they make me so angry.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you for sure. Elle, what did you score it for enjoyment?
I gave it a 4.8 because part of the enjoyment for me is the angst.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
So
enjoy that.
I really enjoy the difficult moments, and and it's funny because what Audrey said for her screen time thing is true for me for the enjoyment thing, where when other characters get to see a part of the character that I like they get to see Sam in like a different light maybe, or how he behaves when that person isn't around, like when Dean is basically a ghost. And I enjoy when other characters comment on or gain a better understanding of Sam. So that added into my 4.8.
I gave it a 4.5. Same reason. Like I liked it. I liked
It made my brain tingle, which
Yeah.
is just that's always a good thing with Supernatural for me. Like if it gets my brain going.
Yeah. And I just love again the family dynamics and like getting to see the boys better understand each other and like kind of like be the unifying force when, everything else kind of seems at odds. I love that. So I gave it a 4.5 for enjoyment. So kicking it back over to Jess for our final category. Hard Eyes. What did you give it for Hard Eyes?
I think 4. I thought he was super cute in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, there's a loads of really good shots of his pointy little nose, loads of really good side shots, which I enjoyed this episode. And I like that he was wounded throughout. So
Oh,
4.
yeah. We like a little hurt. Yeah. Vic, what did you give it for Hard Eyes?
Read the pointy nose. I saw someone who did a little like guide on how to draw Sam on that was reblogged onto my dash the other day, and it was basically just like he's extremely pointy. Number one,
he has a little
everything
pointy
is
nose.
pointy. Yeah, no, I gave this a 4.7. I just
Oh.
it's the hair that did it for me.
Yeah.
I could wax lyrical about the hair in this episode and next episode for years.
For
But yeah.
years and years. I love that. And Elle, what did you give it for Hard Eyes?
I gave it a 4.5. Mostly because of, like, honestly, the first scene and other scenes like it where he's like completely discombobulated because of being in a car accident, and yet he's got the Colt pointed at this demon who's about to get into their car, and he's basically threatens this demon away because he can like barely move his own body. Like, I was like, yes,
Indeed.
cute and awesome.
Yeah.
That's the BAMF kind of.
I love that. I gave it a 4 for Hard Eyes. I think when Sam is in pain, I don't love it because it hurts my feelings. But I'm really just moving a number. It's like Sam math. Like, I'm just moving a decimal from one column to another. And so it's like if we were doing Sam taxes, I just put my dividends in different columns.
Can we call these Sam taxes from now
Sam
on?
taxes. Yeah, let's do the Sam
my
tax.
heart eyes also definitely got boosted by, I think, the first appearance of the Power Shrug of Anger, because I am obsessed with the Power Shrug of Anger.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We are
such
obsessed.
a signature move. And it's like one of the few times that Sam uses his like height and his size to like deliberately uses
and
it,
they
because
pull the camera back to include
Yeah.
the entire span because they have to.
They know what's up.
So the average for my rating was a 4.3 for this episode, and average of all of y'all's together is 4.1. So we're kind of right there. And
I think that seems fair for Sam. I think overall it's a top tier episode.
A great
It
episode.
is so
I love
good.
it.
From a Sam point of view, I think that makes sense.
oh yeah. Season 2, episode 2. Everybody loves a clown. Literally no one likes clowns, but let's get started on this second episode.
Yeah, I'm so with Sam in this episode.
Girl. So Jess, our beautiful mother to be, it is almost 2 o'clock for y'all. Is it almost 2? It's almost 1 a.m. So Mama Jess, she needs to go lay down and rest. So we're back down to just 3 hosts. Vic is here and Elle is here, and then me.
Hello.
I'm here too. And let's get into why clowns are terrible. So Everybody Loves a Clown starts out at a fun house in a carnival, and the dumbest kid I've ever seen in my life is like drawn to what I would only describe as like the most horrifying clown outside of the new remake of It that I've ever seen. And he like follows them home or something, and the parents are asleep upstairs, and she goes downstairs, and the creepiest clown I've ever seen is like, let me in, and she's like, yes. And so they all die except for the child. Anyways, meanwhile, Sam and Dean are at Bobby's. Dean has been trying to fix up the Impala. It looks terrible. They have all of these emotional conversations throughout this episode where it's very clear that Sam is really pushing Dean to talk and like try to get him to deal with John's death. And Dean is very resistant to that. And then he does a lot of deflecting. We'll get into that. It's a very fraught episode for the brothers. Oh, and I skipped over the funeral they had for John, but it's because I hate him. Anyways, they have a hunter's funeral for John, burn his ass, goodbye, so that I guess he can't come back and be possessed or haunted or anything like that. So eventually they start working at this carnival to try to figure out this case, and it's very funny and very cute. They wear red windsuits, which I very much enjoy, and they discover that is it a Hindu, like it's some part of Hindu lore, and he's not a spirit, but he's not a spirit, and it's magic, and eventually they're able to get him, and the ending is really more about the story. I would say is a B story. The clown is not really the main point. The A story is the brothers talking through their grief, and at the end Sam is like, okay, I admit it, I'm not okay, but like, can you please at least also admit that you're not okay? And he goes inside, and then Dean beats the shit out of the Impala, as you do when you're very well adjusted, and that is the end of the episode. How'd I do?
Perfect.
Great.
What
I
a
was gonna
great
say-
wrap up.
My first comment on this episode is I love what they did with the then,
Mhm.
the episode recap bit, like the
Mhm.
way they synced it up with the music. I don't
Mhm.
remember them doing that explicitly to that extent in any other episode. At least if they do, I think it's only in the ones that are like the road so far ones. So like,
Yeah. Well, I
a
think
Carry On
that
My Wayward Son, or like a mid-season finale or an opener.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just really cool. I just noted it particularly because it was like so syncopated to the music.
Well, Vic, was it you that said that really the first two episodes are like the end of season one? And I
Yes.
think that speaks to that, where it's like there's still big, huge things happening to set season two up, even in this
Mhm.
episode. So they were like, we need to kind of keep going with here are the important things, because it really is like they're wrapping season one up still.
Yeah.
So that was a really good
But
observation.
yeah, it was just really creative editing. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I liked it too. I was going to ask
I
Elle,
skipped
like,
it.
Oh,
was-
no. I was going to ask what song
I was
it
running out of
was.
time.
Oh, that's
so I
fair.
skipped it.
We'd rather
I'm
you be
sorry.
here than know about the terrible Netflix music, to be honest. So you're probably just sparing all of us. So, my first note about this episode was genuinely who in their right mind has ever liked a clown, unironically. Like, has anyone ever enjoyed a clown not in a horror movie sense?
Not me.
Okay, so all the silence I'm just gonna assume means literally no one. And I said,
Literally no one.
what kind of dipshit lets the scary ass clown in? That's my next line. That's my next.
You called a child a dipshit. Got it.
She's stupid. Dipshit
Clowns
is
to
gonna
me
let
are
a
in the
murder
same
clown
realm
in.
as,
She looks like she's 11. If
She's
she
dumb.
was 6, I could maybe understand.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, what 6-year-old
looks-
is gonna look at a clown that looks like that and be like, oh,
Yeah,
no one.
I think I wrote in my notes the importance of teaching your kids not to let strangers into your house. Like, I'm pretty sure my kid would not let a scary clown into our house, let alone lead him to our bed.
Yeah, it's not like it's Mickey Mouse. It's not like it's something cute. It's the scariest clown I've ever seen.
Yeah. Do you know what the clown in this immediately made me think of?
What?
You know in The Sims, you know that portrait of the clown that you could put up on the wall, and then if you put it in the kid's bedroom, then the clown would like appear and just like stand in the kid's bedroom, and it would like literally traumatize the children. I love The Sims.
That sounds
It's an insane game.
fine. I used
Anyway,
to play
that's what
Sims,
I
but
thought of.
like years ago. No, you would know what it makes me think of. Elle, you might be able to talk to me about this. I don't know, Vic, if you guys had this in the UK when y'all were kids. I don't know how Nickelodeon, if you guys had Nickelodeon or not. But Are You Afraid of the Dark had a absolutely like iconic, legendary clown episode where he lost his nose and it rolled out from underneath the door, and a kid picked it up, and the clown followed him home looking for his nose, and he could smell the cigar smoke from the clown, and that's how he knew the clown was in his house. And that's what this is reminding me of.
Yeah, I
I never
think we
saw
had-
that.
No, I don't think I ever saw that, but I was
It's
traumatized
good.
by a Goosebumps episode that involved clowns.
See, all of
I
our
was
clown
traumatized by
references are bad.
so many.
None of
It's
them
true.
are like
I don't
a
have any
clown
good.
saved me from a burning
No,
building when I was a
clowns
kid.
are in the same. Clowns are in the same category to me as mascots, like
Oh, I like,
costume mascots.
but I like mascots. See, like I'm a Muppet.
Oh
girl.
no, I'm literally terrified of costume mascots.
Oh,
Like, they're one
I
of
love
scariest
the
things on planet
Muppets.
to me.
I love
funny.
watching like
Oh,
the
Muppets.
Labyrinth.
That's different.
Is it?
No, I mean like
'Cause I have a
like,
friend
if you go
who
to a
is-
sports game.
I
Like
know what
Chuck E.
you're
Cheese.
saying, but my friend, she's terrified of mascots, and she cannot watch like the Muppet Show because they have those full body
Oh no,
like
that's tragic.
creatures.
They do.
You know what
They
I'm
do.
talking
True.
about? And they are. There's an episode. So her favorite person in the world is Julie Andrews, and there's an episode with Julie Andrews, and one of the skits is full-bodied costume Muppets chase her and eat her.
You know,
And
the
like
difference is
Stacey was like,
Muppets are like, because the Creature Workshop is so amazing and the
Yeah.
Muppeteers are so
art.
amazing. They embody. Anyway, why are we talking about Muppets? But they're so embodied that it doesn't feel like a person in a costume ever
Yeah.
to me.
that's fair.
Yeah.
There's gonna be
So
so many
Barney,
weird parts of
not
our
a fan.
carousel. Oh, I loved
Anyway.
Barney. You want to talk
Oh, yeah,
about
I hate you,
kid
Barney.
shows?
I'm talking to Vic about her costume.
Did you guys ever watch Bear in the Big Blue House?
Yeah,
He's just a
I didn't
big
watch it, but I've seen it.
So sweet. Anyways, we will stop talking about this. All of these things would have been something that could have I would have let that bear in the big blue house into my house. You know what I wouldn't have let in as a 6-year-old or an 11-year-old? Freaking clown. That's how it's supposed to be.
Especially one that looks that scary. Like
He's dirty.
Big-
He's frowning.
clean clothes, a bright flower, cleanly done face
It's
makeup.
bizarre to me
maybe.
that not one of these children is scared of the clown.
He's like, oh, you're right,
I-
my best friend.
I
must be
thought I
something that it's doing.
remembered. Yes, I thought I remembered when I started this episode that there was something about the clown that caused the children to not be afraid, and that was part of
I wish that
part
were
of
true.
the deal was
But
that
instead,
the
all
kids
the-
wouldn't be
all the
afraid.
kids are stupid.
And then
All of them are dumb.
I was hoping I just missed it,
No,
and
I
that
don't
it was
think so.
in there.
I think
I
it's kind of
do-
implied, maybe, but yeah.
I do like that we're doing like a truly scary story. Like even though it's a B plot,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I really like the scary stories.
Yeah,
that they
me
do.
too.
Um,
And it gives us a little bit of a breather between the like brother angst. Because I was gonna say my notes about the Hunter's funeral is that I hate to see the boys so sad, and Sam is like crying. And then immediately, because what we discussed, I think both of us, like I've discussed one-on-one with Elle and Vic in different episodes, is as soon as John dies, Dean begins to become him. And at his funeral, the last thing Sam says is, hey, did he say anything? And
Dean lies to
immediately
him.
Dean lies,
Yeah.
and the lies between the brothers began. And I was just like, damn, we were at the fucking funeral. And that
Well,
began.
when we say lies between the brothers, we do need to be very explicit that we mean Dean
Dean.
lying to Sam.
Sam.
Dean lying to Sam about
About
things that are
Sam.
pertinent to Sam.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sam
When
lying
Sam-
about himself, I'm
Yeah.
okay with.
very different.
Yeah,
Lies to
it's
keep
his
his own
own
secrets.
it's his
Yeah.
own right to keep his secrets.
I will say I do remember the first time that I saw the Hunter's funeral scene. It was so evocative. I feel like they lose their power as they go on. But
Yeah.
that first shot of the Hunter's funeral, and number one, I could be misremembering, but I think I've read somewhere, and it does visually trigger my brain this way, that it's a reference to the way it's shot, a reference to to Luke burning Vader's body
Yes.
in Return of the Jedi.
I love that,
Yeah.
but
That's interesting.
it's funny because that's the thing is like Vader was actively considered a villain. And they're
but he was
burning
redeemed at the end.
Yeah, but they never get there with John where he's the villain. He should be the villain, but he's always considered a good
But he
guy.
also is never fully redeemed.
No, but
Mhm.
you see what I'm saying? The difference
Yeah.
is the payoff with Vader is he was a full-on evil person.
Yeah.
And he did come back, but they do this homage kind of being like, oh, look, we're doing this homage, and maybe not even realizing how half-baked it is in that you're calling out your daddy as a villain, but you never explicitly made the narrative admit that.
But
Well,
I mean,
and
the whole
didn't
show
Kripke
is kind of based around the Joseph Campbell archetypes, which of course is very much what. Yeah, like he
Yeah, they've
explicitly-
already said that Luke
Kripke
Skywalker
said
is
that.
Sam.
Sam is Luke, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, which I mean, yeah.
I mean,
I love Luke.
floppy
so I'm
hair
very
and
happy with
everything.
this.
I know, I'm a Luke fan.
I love Luke.
Forever.
I love him.
But I also really, I have to say, I really love the imagery of the funeral pyre. I think it immediately triggers my archaeological brain because
I was gonna say it's very
so anyway-
historical.
yeah, anyone who doesn't know, I'm an archaeologist. But like I love it because it's like it's implies the idea of like hunters having culturally specific funerary practices, which I just anytime that they kind of like give hunters a distinct like culture that separates them from the rest of the world, I find that really interesting. I wish they did it more.
It's really satisfying world building.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
exactly.
you know that
And I
they
love
have
when
these
people dive
rules.
into that fic.
You see that they have these like traditions and they have these laws basically. You have to do this, or a hunter could be manipulated by spirits after
But
death.
Interestingly, we don't get that explanation in this episode.
No,
which
we
I
don't.
like.
We just know
We'll get it later.
We'll get
I
it.
think we
but,
do
like,
get it later. Yeah.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, we do.
What I was gonna say next is that Dean immediately starts acting like an aggressive asshole now that Dad is dead, and Sam is like concerned for him, and Sam like kind of just wants to talk to Dean and is like, hey, like I'm worried about you. Like I feel like you haven't said much, and Dean fully goes into like gaslighting mode. Like, what do you mean? What am I supposed to say? Like, why should I be acting different? You're the weird one, and it's like your dad died. What do you?
He fully makes fun of Sam for wanting to talk about.
Like, oh, should I cry on your shoulder?
Dad dying.
Bitch, maybe you should cry on my shoulder.
Maybe you should, dude.
I do just need to say, since I did, mention it earlier and we shared it on the social media, that we should note the first appearance of the One Perfect Tear.
A single man tear
has
a single man tear.
Meanwhile, Sam is just actively crying.
Yeah, just snot.
He is just.
That's a Jonathan Groff moment, like we were saying at the beginning. The very moist face.
Yeah. The way Jared cries as Sam is, it will always get me.
So
but he's
sweet.
also very good at the like barely held back emotion, which is interesting because his face is sopping wet, but at the same time, it's like you can see the kind of like trying to rein it in, like the way he bites his lip, and he has the like.
He's very good at like a little trembly face, like his little nose is twitching, his eyes are like
trying really hard,
his lip is always trembling. Yes. He's very good at it, and I love it. I think
quiver, and then he bites it, and
he's the best. We just love Jared.
Jared,
so listen to our podcast. All we do is talk good about you. We love you.
Only love.
So should we talk about the Roadhouse? Because I put in all caps because I love the Roadhouse so much.
I thought it was weird that it was absolutely empty. Like, I understand that.
Well, I mean, not
like it would
not fully. Ash was asleep on the pool table.
On the pool table, but it looks really dusty and like there's nobody around. And I would imagine, like, in normal circumstances, a tavern or whatever would be closed at that time of day. Yeah. But this is not a normal tavern, and you're going to have hunters in here all the time, day and night, because they don't keep regular working hours, and they always are going to need to do their information exchange. It struck me as very odd that it was painted as like an abandoned place.
Well,
we know that later it's not.
It's not. And I need to go ahead and just like throw in Jess's comment. She said, I have to go to bed, but here's 2 comments that you need to throw in. And one of them was, why did Ellen and Joe seem so surprised and suspicious of 2 gruffy looking hunters entering what is a hunter bar? And I was like, girl, yeah, you're right.
That's a good point. Yeah,
what is wrong with them? So it's like abandoned, which it shouldn't be. And then they're absolutely like, who the fuck are you guys? Instead of like, hey, y'all want a beer? Like, what are we doing?
Right? Wait, you just threaten people that walk in instead of assuming they're there for your establishment?
You know what I
seems
like
a
better?
Weird way to run a business.
I actually do like that, because if you consider the fact that it is a hunter bar and like the type of men that might be hunters, the type of people that might be hunters, maybe they have to establish themselves as the kind of girls who will beat your ass, and then they can offer you a drink.
It's also a small community, right? So if they have not met Sam or Dean before, then this is scruffy dudes walking into your bar who you've never met before with a minivan.
My impression is that most hunters know each other, and that the fact that Sam and Dean were kept isolated from the rest of the hunting community is unusual. And I mean, this scene, like, even though they don't explicitly say the whole thing about, like, have you noticed that John seems to fall out with a lot of people?
Yes,
Like,
love
Sam
that
says
line.
That was
Sam
a
says
good
that
line.
explicitly later, but
Yep.
you can intuit that from this scene already, after us already having had that discussion about the fact that John had a falling out with Bobby, and that's why they
Right.
never saw Bobby again, and that he'd also had a falling out with Pastor Jim.
Fucking
Like,
asshole.
Yeah, as soon as they kind of like are like, oh yeah, we've heard about you, but why?
I
have we
like to
never,
think,
like, why
yeah,
have Sam and Dean never heard of her, and why have they never seen it? And then she's like, yeah, we don't talk about that or whatever, and it's just like,
yeah.
It's because he
this
feels
man is falling
guilty.
out with people.
I wrote that John kept them away from any kind of community they could have had and gotten help from, but
Yeah.
close enough to him to have their lives virtually, like, at risk virtually all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because, so you know how we were talking about the published John Winchester's journal. So I've been reading it recently for fic purposes. So it's been on my mind a lot. And there's a lot that in it that I think is interesting and I agree with, and then there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of like, I don't know that actually really works. And obviously, like, it contradicts canon later on because it was written fairly early on and stuff. But in that, they do kind of, because they introduce this idea of the fact that John knew that things were after Sam from quite an early age. The idea kind of becomes that John starts to deliberately cut them off from other hunters because other hunters are after Sam, because they start to hear rumors as well. And I do think that there is an aspect to John in which he is, very similarly to Dean, he is kind of obsessive about protection, but that his
Or
protection
control.
is, yes, but his protection manifests as control.
Yeah.
So I think there's kind of like two aspects to it. I think it probably is true that he was genuinely, like, frightened about keeping them in contact too much with hunters. If he, as it's implied in the last episode, had known about Sam for a while, that does make sense to me. But yeah, I think also that's like because his perspective on protection is so tied up with control that I think it's like it's both playing at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to say, like, I hate that Dean, like, needs to take his feelings about losing John, and let's be for fucking real, John saying some fucked up shit to him about Sam just before he died, out on Sam. Like,
Yep.
you are being
And
so mean to
out on the car.
Sam. Yeah, and I'd rather him take it out
car,
on the
yeah.
car. Like, at first he's like, okay, so, like, we're fully just, like, moving away from the clown plot because all my notes are I'm trying to keep
Oh
us,
yeah, absolutely.
like, you know what I mean, like, in order, but then, like, well, I don't even know what part of the clown story we're on because all my notes are about the boys, but I'm essentially at the point where, like, oh, they got rid of the minivan because they hated it and they were afraid, like, I think the plates were seen or something, and so the boys are walking or something and they're arguing with each other, or, like, again, and here's the thing, like, Sam is concerned. I do think he's being a little pushy with Dean. Like, if it were me, I would not have the tone that Sam has, and I would kind of back off a little bit. But also, he's like 23, 24 at this point. I get that he's doing it out of concern. When Dean is so mean to him and is like, oh, well, what you're doing is actually what you're accusing me of, because Sam's accusing him of, like, not really dealing with it because he's compartmentalizing, as Vic had talked about before. And so Dean turns it around completely and is like, okay, actually, you trying to kiss Dad's ass after he died is you not dealing with the fact that you essentially were a bad son. Like, he basically just gives him the worst.
Too little, too late. Yep.
Yeah, too little, too late. He died and you never did anything he ever asked you to. And, like, maybe you should deal with your own shit.
He perpetuates what John did in the last episode by saying, like, I don't know why we're fighting, and, like, you know, basically implying that Sam is the one who, like, creates the fight.
Yeah.
And he basically perpetuates that in this by, you know, placing the blame on Sam for his and John's bad relationship.
Yeah. And what I love about the way Sam ends that conversation is he doesn't argue, he doesn't engage further. He goes, okay, I'm gonna go make this call for the case, and he walks away. And I think leaving Dean to sit with that, I don't think it changes anything, but I do think it makes him go, well, maybe that was mean. Because
Maybe.
if you engage with someone who's doing that, that's what he wants. He wants you to engage so they can deflect away from his issues. And so now he's like, well, now I have to sit with what I said to Sam and my own issues.
I do think that there is like a recurring thing of Sam, as I've said, like I think both of them attempt to compartmentalize. I think Sam is very, very good at compartmentalizing, and Dean is not actually very successful at it, and he wishes that he was better. He definitely attempts to do it a lot. But that I think partly because Sam compartmentalizes stuff, he actually, I think often kind of has to or attempts to work through or process his own emotions by encouraging Dean to open up. I think he actually finds the process of trying to help Dean useful to himself as a way to help himself like decompartmentalize and like actually process that emotion.
Yeah,
which is
I
a really
agree.
interesting part of their dynamic, I think.
I think that's why it strikes me that he's so pushy about needing Dean to open up. And I think Sam's right. I think what Dean does is unhealthy, but I also know like, and they're brothers, and I think they know what upsets the other. And so a part of him is like, this is a script we've probably always like read our entire life. And you know how you kind of fall into conversations with your family that you realize like later, like, damn, I shouldn't have probably done it that way because I was just like, it was a familiar pattern. And I could see that. And I think too, when Sam says, I'm going to make this call, I feel like it's partly, it could be read as like him recognizing that and going, this is probably, I'm going to step out of this because this is not the conversation and how I wanted the conversation to be had.
Yeah, I think he definitely recognizes that to some extent.
Also, Dean was kind of like kicking tires, trying to find out if Sam is going to really like go back to school or not, because he had told like what the circus guy, that we're not going to school. We want to do these things or whatever. And what's really crazy to me too, and you guys can speak to this, if you have any thoughts, because I was really interested in what you guys would say about this, but that he goes in on Sam. Like, what? Oh, now you don't want to go back to school? That's what, you always wanted to do that when dad was alive. And it's like, this is what Dean wants. Like, he wants Sam to skip going back to school and stay hunting with him. He was in tears about it like a week ago. But now that John is out of the picture and he has all of these like deeply rooted like pain and trauma or whatever grief that he's dealing with, he has to be a dick about it and make Sam feel horrible and guilty about dad. And in doing so, it's like sabotaging what he really actually wants Sam to do.
Dean is extremely good at identifying the thing that will most like pick at something for Sam or like make the guilt of something worse. Like for instance, in season 4, he very explicitly uses the God doesn't want you to do this argument to Sam, which is not something that like Dean explicitly does not have faith or feel. He doesn't put any stock in what God feels, but he knows that Sam does. So he uses that, and this has little shades of that to me, like an early incarnation of it. It's something that he knows that's important to Sam, and to Dean, it's actually like it's important to Dean, but like in the opposite direction. But he's kind of using it as a bit of a cudgel.
Elle, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking that the way I read Dean's reaction to Sam saying, that he wanted to do, this is what dad would have wanted to do. No, I don't want to go to school. I'm not sure if I want to go back to school, is Dean reacting to years of dealing with Sam dad bullshit, trying and mostly failing to be a peacekeeper between them, getting himself all riled up and anxious in the process of trying to keep them from killing each other, and then losing dad after hearing something terrible that we know is about Sam, I think he just looks at Sam and sees every part of this could have been different if you'd been acting like this when Dad was alive.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes him so angry that things weren't different, that
Before
things
it was
weren't
too late.
before it was too late. So I think he genuinely does feel it like it's too late, bro. You should have been acting like this when Dad was alive. You should have been not wanting to go to school back when I didn't want you to go to school. But now that Dad's dead and we're at loose ends, all of a sudden now you don't want to go back to school? Like,
yeah, I don't
come on, bro.
I totally get that. I feel like you're definitely right. I think Dean is oriented incorrectly. Like he's saying it like because you have to think of like the point of like or like the reason, the motivation behind it. Like it was never gonna be possible for Sam to do those things while John was alive because John was never gonna be the kind of person that he needed to be for Sam to be able to do those things. And now that John is gone, Sam feels guilt and like I wish we could have found common ground. So to deal with the grief of that, I'm going to try to do these things. But what Dean is really saying when you're saying that, I feel like Dean is saying it's too late. It's too little too late for that to have worked out for me. Like,
well, yeah.
Yeah. And like,
that's almost,
but like, he's trying to frame it like you're trying to do this for Dad, but you know, he's dead. Well, what he really means is I can't benefit from this now. Like and that's what's crazy to me is because he's sabotaging himself because he could benefit from it. Because
he doesn't want Sam to go back to school.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I think it's very interesting that he like kind of sabotages it. But what he's really talking about is I'm frustrated for myself, but he's trying to put it out there like this is disrespectful to Dad's memory because it's not true.
I think there's also an aspect. So this is a good conversation that I've seen a lot of lately about Dean has a very set idea of Sam in his head, and he really struggles whenever Sam deviates from that idea. So we see that really a lot in season 3 and of course season 4, but like throughout season 3 Sam is like explicitly trying to be more Dean because he feels like that's what he has to do in order to prepare for Dean's death, and Dean doesn't like that. He can't cope with that, and I saw this phrase really, really well recently, which was the idea that what Dean can't cope with is the encroaching of Sam on Sammy. So like Sammy is the idea of Sam that Dean has in his head, and Sam is like the actual Sam who is not
is the person.
The person.
And he's entirely right in that like Sam is not putting up a front, but like Sam is going through something where he is to try and cope with the guilt that he's been made to feel both by his dad and then by Dean in this episode for like the bad relationship. He is trying to like repair that by you know changing himself and doing these different things. So it's not so much that like Dean is wrong in this instance that like Sam is doing these things, but like he doesn't like what he doesn't like about it is that it deviates from like his version of Sam that he has in his head.
Yes.
And that's what he struggles to cope with, I think. So I think that's where some of this is coming from. I do love like the way that Jared manages to portray Sam's like fear of the clowns, like uncomfortability with them. Like the scene where he has to sit in the clown chair and he's just like this little like deeply uncomfortable little face, and it's
and then
so
Dean's
good.
over there like
his like little smirk he does is so funny.
They have a few different scenes where one of them is just
I was gonna say the one literally
getting
just
to business
before that,
and the other one is like hee.
Yeah, literally just before that is like shitty little brother Sam, where he's like where Dean is like
the blind
making all
man.
the faux pas. Yeah, making
He's
all the
stepping
faux pas
into
with the
it
blind man.
with the
And he's like, "Do you want to give me a little help?"
person.
And Sam's like, "Not really."
Nope, absolutely not.
I do also love the planes crash and apparently clowns kill.
And apparently clowns kill. I love that. I wrote that down. I do think the thing with clowns being like Sam's phobia
Yeah.
right? I love episodes in series where you are doing the episode through the lens of one of the characters' phobias, because it's like one of those kind of indulgent episodes where you get to explore a character's psyche, maybe go into some backstory about why that's a phobia, maybe see what they do to overcome something that the phobia, is causing some roadblock or something, right? But we get this episode when Dean needs to overcome something. So I'm like,
Right.
what a waste of a good phobia episode.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily
I
we
think-
get clowns back later, but
I was
like
gonna say,
we
I
could have
think
dug
they-
into some stuff here.
For
They
sure.
really make up for it with Plucky Penny Whistles, which
They
is
do.
like I actually think that's a genuinely really good episode in season 7. I love Plucky Penny Whistles. And also I think it actually makes Sam's clown phobia worse.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of dealing with it fairly well in this episode. Like he's uncomfortable, but he's not like terrified. Whereas
Right.
in
Yeah.
Plucky Penny Whistles, like because he's also hallucinating Lucifer at the same time.
Yeah, he's a lot
Like-
going on.
He's got a lot going
and then
on.
he has the whole thing of like if they bleed you can kill them, and then
bless
like
his
the
I
clowns
love
don't
that.
bleed and he can't kill them.
In that episode, I really love that. And I really genuinely like that episode. But when I'm watching a show and I'm like, ooh, phobia, what I'm tuned in for is how's this character going to deal with this? And then we don't get any of that in this. We just get him looking cutely uncomfortable on a clown chair or whatever. Looking at a short little clown going, like,
I feel like
I get it and
early
it's
instant-
cute, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I want my
It kind of feels
phobia.
It kind of feels like an early instance of Jared doing a lot of background work.
Yes. Oh, we're gonna give your character an episode where he's terrified of the very thing they have to hunt. But we're not gonna deal with that in any way. Is that cool?
Yeah.
There was
Yeah,
just
I'll take
so
care of it. Don't
much-
worry. I got it. I'll take care of it with my face.
He's always doing such heavy lifting with his face. But I will say, because there's so much going on, that they decided to do this monster. So during the death of the father and the brothers in turmoil, you would think, it might have been an afterthought where they were like, oh, Sam has a phobia. That would be funny. And then later they're like, what if we did more with that? So I could see them maybe, because it is a waste. But when you think about what else is going on, it's like, when would they have done it?
Right.
I
would
actually
rather
have
they...
I have a Kripke quote to give you. I wish I had it verbatim. There's actually a quote from Kripke where he explicitly says, I really wish that we'd actually like dealt more with Sam's reaction to and like working through his emotions of John dying, but we kind of like forgot, and then it was too late.
How did I forget the most important shit about Sam? Like, didn't they say they forgot he was psychic and that's why that never came back? Like, how did you fucking forget?
Some of that was to do with the writer's strike, but yeah.
Okay.
Chef's kiss, like that's the story of Supernatural. We just forgot to like.
We just forgot.
We forgot our own lore. Okay. Whatever.
Big things about main characters, but that's okay. I mean, like even at the end of the episode when they're killing the thing that is presenting itself as a clown, it doesn't turn back into the clown and Sam gets to like beat it in the face or anything.
I thought that was very notable.
Everyone loves a clown, but that didn't really end up
No
being...
one loves a clown.
No one loves a clown. I do have one more thing about the actual case, which is a thing that I felt that I want to just pull apart with you guys as my therapists, maybe?
Yeah, let's therapize you.
So, the second scene that we get where the little boy is leading the clown to his parents' bed and wakes up his father. Okay, so I think there's something about being the mom of like a full-grown kindergartner.
Yeah, we saw him earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Like he's tall, he has his own thoughts. He goes downstairs and gets snacks in the middle of the night.
And sometimes a clown.
And occasionally a clown shows up. He will go downstairs, or come downstairs. I'm downstairs right now. He'll find my Stray Kids blanket and bring it upstairs to me at 3 a.m. and wake me up to give it to me because he knows I like it. Like this boy is bringing this clown to his dad because clowns are great, and he believes the clown is awesome. He's gonna wake his dad up in the middle of the night.
Well, and earlier,
gleeful.
his dad was trying to convince him that they're
That
cool, and he
clowns
was like, whatever.
Yeah.
So he wants
Yeah.
to say, Dad, I get
says-
it now.
Yeah, he says, Dad, you were right. He is my friend. Like, kids at that like youngish age they want to please their parents. They want to make them happy. They want to say you were right, because the parents are like a source of comfort. And when the parents are right, the kids feel safe, right? Because the parents know, and you can trust them that they know.
Yeah.
So saying you were right is a happy thing for a kid that age.
And if you please your parents, they keep providing you with safety and love. And
well, sure, that's fairly transactional, but
no, that's like,
but yeah, you're right. You're right.
But that's instinctually, that's why children like crave their parents' approval. Not like they love them. They're also like part of their DNA is like, I have to keep mama happy, so she'll continue to protect me.
And my kid will just wake me up happily in the middle of the night, give me something he thinks I like, and sometimes he'll go back to his own bed. Even he's not even trying to like snuggle or something.
He's like, okay, enjoy, bye.
Okay. He's just done something he knows will make me happy, and there's everything in him is just like happiness, right? And I know how I feel when my kid is doing something that he thinks is great that I know is not, and I have to correct him. You feel like you're squashing that happiness, and it's such a shitty feeling. And so when I'm watching this kid lead death to his own dad without realizing it, and he's so full of joy about it. Me knowing that in 3 seconds that joy is going to get stomped in like the worst way possible, I just like I had to pause the episode and be like, damn, I think I'm actually upset about this. I think I'm actually upset about this. It like hurt me in my heart parts.
Your heart parts?
My heart parts. Also, I didn't like Sam's hair in this episode at all, but that's just the next note on my paper.
Well, I will say that I felt like the man who played the father was a really good actor. And I feel like because you're going through so many realizations in that moment. So you're sleepy and you wake up and you see your son and you're like, what's up, son? What's going on? What? Whoa. Like,
and then
he nailed it. I mean, he absolutely nailed it. And I was just like, this is really terrifying. And you having a child who brings you things in the night, I can understand why that would be terrifying. And you also felt bad for the child.
I felt really bad for the child because I feel bad for my own kid. And he's not bringing me death. He's just bringing me a
stray kid's blanket.
Something I don't. Or something I don't want that he shouldn't be touching, and then I have to correct him out of it even though he was so happy about it. Like that's the part where
I love the sentiment, don't touch the poisonous thing or whatever it is.
Right, exactly. So anyway, it was and now that you bring it up, I'm upset about the dad too, because the dad is going to die knowing that his kid is witnessing something terrible and is likely to die himself. He has no way of knowing that his kid survives this.
Right. No, I thought of you for sure when I saw that scene, because I know that you have a kiddo around that age, and like it just was so visceral. Like you're like,
it was.
Every parent knows what it's like to wake up and your kid is standing like a Victorian ghost at the edge of your bed.
Creepily staring at you, waiting for you to wake up. Ugh. Yeah. It's creepy to start with, and then this happens.
And then there's a freaking clown. So we're kind of at the end of the episode, basically, because we've talked through all the boys' conversations, and like at the end, I want to hit the last thing that happens with the boys is that, first of all, there's a very important like hip down, full buttock walking in jeans shot of Sam that I've seen gift over 500 times that happens at the end. And it's like very like tag, like hashtag long, very long legs. Like I think he's wearing the first V-neck of the series as well, which I was just like, thank you, Jesus. Lapsed Baptist, I'm not into it anymore, but like praise the Lord. And then
Yoga Sam, take the wheel.
Yeah. Yoga. Oh my God, that was such a
I mean,
deep
he is very
Tumblr
Jesus
cut.
coded, so
That was such a deep Tumblr cut. Like, we're gonna have to find that post and like link it. But like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
so all that from that beautiful moment of like, wow, look at the long legs and like the jeans and the V-neck, we go into a very like sincere and genuine performance by Jared where he, talks through like, I heard what you said about what, how you think I'm dealing with things. I agree with you. And, John, he doesn't say John, but he basically says, like, dad died thinking that I hated him. And the too little too late speech is sad. But it shows that Sam wants to listen and is open to change if he feels that he needs to, which I think is so like important just in humanity. Like if you're going to be the kind of person who wants to grow and is open to hearing criticism, like then you are the kind of person I would want to be friends with. And he can admit like you were right, Dean. But he finishes, and I love this because it's not just something where he goes, you were right, and it's over. Because I think we end up getting to a point where Sam will just end it there. But instead he says, but so was I. I was right too. And you need to figure out the parts of the conversation that I said, like you still have shit to work through.
I love it because although he was pushy at the start of the episode, by this point he's so gentle with him. I would say, like,
and
to me,
it's that thing that you were saying last
says
season, Vic, where he can be so gentle and allow Dean and say, "I'm inviting you to be vulnerable with me. You can be." And I think he finally hit that moment where he knew how to communicate because he was failing at communicating with Dean this episode. I would say because of how he came about it, and we had that conversation where the boys struggle to find each other. I think Sam gets there here at the end, but Dean makes his counterpoint by hitting the Impala with a fucking crowbar.
Yeah, okay. So I had completely forgotten how the episode like ended right at the end. So I'm watching this going, so what happens next? And I was fully expecting like that Dean would be like, "Hey Sam, you want to come help me with the car?" Or something like something conciliatory.
Nope.
Where he's like, "All right, we'll end on a positive note, even though it's not me admitting that you're right or that I have feelings. You want to," because they had made a point about that earlier in the episode, like you under the hood of a car, no thank you. That maybe, okay, well, why don't you come and help me with the car? No. Instead, I'm going to wait for you to walk away. And then I'm going to beat the shit out of the car that I just
that he loves
5 seconds ago lovingly working on restoring.
Yeah. I said, is this him admitting Sam was right? I do not know, but I bet the Impala wishes that he would make his point another way.
I know every time he said something along the lines of, "I'm fine," it was followed up 3 seconds later with him yelling or hitting something. Yep. And I was like, bro, not fine.
No, and that's Vic saying how bad he is at compartmentalizing. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It bursts out of him.
Yeah.
He tries and then he
can't keep it in.
Also it's very do you know the like quote about like if you're raised with an angry man in your house, there will always be an angry man in your house. It's from a piece of short fiction called Cut by Catherine Lacey.
Dang.
I think it was published in New York Times in like 2019. Anyway, but it does big numbers on Supernatural Tumblr for extremely obvious reasons.
We'll have to link to that as well. We'll have to,
because it's kind of like the Dean taking on John's mantle thesis statement, I think.
Instantly.
And it's so noticeable that this is really, I would say, the first instance that we see of Dean exerting that kind of like violence where he just like he tries to compartmentalize something and then something comes out at him, and it's like prior
a demonstration
to the point at which like at this point he's not doing it explicitly in front of or to Sam, which I guess is good, but I think that it's very notable that first instance of that we see is literally as soon as John is dead, and then next episode he does punch Sam.
Oh no, I don't like that. But yeah, it's It's cool. It's kind of like a cool book ending of what you were saying about that meta, Vic, where in the first episode you were talking about Sam as the Impala, and then we end the second episode with Sam kind of making him confront the truth about his own emotions, and so then he beats the shit out of the Impala because he's taking out his frustrations verbally and emotionally on Sam the whole time, and then he ends the book. I said the book. He ends this episode taking out his physical frustrations physically on the car. So I think it really comes full circle with what you were saying about that as a metaphor, especially in this regard, because he's not going to, take a crowbar to Sam and be like, leave me alone. But like,
Not yet.
Not yet. He will take a hammer to him later.
Yeah. And
Anyways,
beat him
that
into
was terrible.
unconsciousness by hitting him 13 times.
I hate it. We hate it.
I hate it.
We do.
You know what? Joe got to punch Dean. Joe
That's
punched Dean right in
true.
the face.
And it was very cute. Right in the face.
It was really satisfying.
Have y'all seen the TikTok that's been going around? The trend right now is this like sweet, like I don't know, AFAB, possibly non-binary person, and it's like, scram. She doesn't want to talk to you. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna have to to link it. Like by the time this comes out, this will be a trend that no one is even thinking.
We'll be like, oh
in
my
fact,
God,
maybe TikTok will actually be blocked in America by that time. We don't know. But if it's not possible, I will link you guys.
It's 90% of my doom scrolling. What will I do?
I know. How will we ever know anything about how people react to Stray Kids' new songs?
Exactly.
We need it. All right. Do we have any final thoughts before we rate this episode?
I've got a last couple of things. So
yeah, tell me.
I was just going to say, how we love some real world consequences. I do think that them having to like ditch the car, take the plates off, etc., and then just be like left walking down the road as well, like literally seeing that like full follow through because they got caught looking like they were abducting a child in the middle of a case, like. Yes. That to me, it's like that's such like good like early seasons real world consequences, and so I thought that was really good. And then also it leads to those shots of them walking down the road, and those are so iconic.
They're so iconic. And, you're totally right.
Beautiful shots. Which was when Sam was like just obliviously sat next to Joe and Dean when like Joe was trying to like have a conversation with them, and like Joe literally has to like look at him and be like,
hello.
And then he's so awkward about it, and I was just like,
I have to
autism.
Go over there
right now.
Yeah.
I literally wrote that out with like ellipses and everything, like to show the pauses because I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. But anyway, like real autism hours up here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's just dampened again immediately by how yucky, how much I don't like Joe and Dean.
No, I don't like it either. I think what happened, right, is that they were trying to have it be a Joe and Sam thing, but the actors had no chemistry. So it ended up being a Dean and Joe thing because they did have chemistry. But I also just have a problem with that actress because of Veronica Mars. It's like hard for me to be like, oh.
It's hard for me too.
Yeah.
It's hard for me too.
You want to rate it? Let's do it.
I think so, yeah.
Cool.
I'm doing this on the fly though because I realized I actually forgot to rate it.
Oh, this will be fun then.
Vic, I always do them on the fly.
I was gonna say this is just how Elle lives, is like by the seat of her little pants.
This is not how I live. I'm terrified.
The seat of those long-legged jean high-hipped pants that Sam was wearing in the last scene. Okay, so we're gonna do our wardrobe judgment first. Again, our descriptors are horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, or terrible but great. Let's go in the same order as before. So we'll start with Vic. What do you think is your descriptor?
I'm gonna bump it up to genuinely good for me because I've already said I love this hair. I'm so sorry that Elle doesn't like this hair. We will be fighting at dawn. It's so
it's different for you than for me, so I think we're gonna miss each other.
It's so
she's over here like what?
It's so shaggy, and then also I don't know. Is this wardrobe? The fact that they carried the bruises over.
Yes, I made a continuity note about that.
I wish they would do that more often, but also so sorry to Sam, but something about the bruises looks really good on his face.
Ooh.
See, I'm making up for the hair, Al. I'm joining you in the like whoomp
Womp, womp,
Sam
womp.
Ball pit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then when he's wearing like the little red jackety thing when they're like having to
Yeah, the
disguise
windsuit
themselves.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
wind
yeah.
jacket.
Okay, I can't tell you what it is. That something about him in that scene is so gender with a capital G to me, and I don't know what the gender is, but like literally, I want to be that gender. Like I don't know what it is. Like it literally gives me
Vic-
gender feels.
Can you send a screenshot to the chat of what you're talking about?
It's bright red. He has the perfect windswept hair. I know exactly what you're talking about because he's on the phone, right? Like he comes out and he's on the phone with Dean, and that to me really stood out. To me,
Yeah,
it stood out to me.
I'm also will say I am not the only person who has said this. Like when that gift set goes round, like it generally just gets comments. From
Oh,
people
no.
being like,
I specifically want to look at it for the gender with a capital G.
Yeah,
well, that's what
it's
I mean.
very
That's what I mean.
something.
People say this. That's what people say about this post. Like it's not just me
Oh.
saying this.
I've never heard that before. So I
It's
would
great.
still like a screenshot if you don't
Yeah.
mind. If you
I
could find it.
haven't seen the
we were not doing advanced gender with Sam when we were on Tumblr originally. People there's advanced gender stuff going on with Sam now. It's beautiful. I love it.
The new
Everything about
generation
it.
of
We love
Sam
new
fans.
Sam fans. Please send those to my my feed. I
Yes.
haven't seen the post, but I feel like I know what you mean because that has always been such a striking moment. Like I think I Googled something. I was looking for a screenshot or something, and I saw a screenshot of that moment. And for some reason, I didn't even think it was part of Supernatural. I was like, is this a different project that he was in around the same time? No, it's so different for some reason from everything we're used to him aesthetically.
It's also the hair and
the bright
something.
red. They're never in bright colors like that, so that might have been part of it. But so genuinely good for you.
I'm sending the link.
Great. Elle, what did you say for wardrobe?
Okay, so I was torn because I like the jeans and I like the face makeup,
The styling.
the styling, the bruising.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's just really cute throughout the whole thing.
Fresh.
Like,
Yeah.
like good cute, like a step above plain old adorable.
Yeah.
However,
What?
the hair, I like the shaggy hair. I like it. I like it.
I think it's a non-binary do.
It is.
I mean,
it's like, you know what it reminds me of? Have you guys seen Bottoms?
Mm-mm.
Y'all have not seen
yes.
Bottoms?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Okay, both of y'all, before I speak to you again, and that might mean tomorrow morning in the chat, y'all need to watch Bottoms immediately. Or like, are you even like enjoying your queer life? Like Bottoms is like the most incredible, hilarious, like queer like comedy I've ever seen, and it's all about femme.
I heard it was very good.
It's so good, but there is a girl in that, or yeah, she's maybe genderqueer, but I think she's a lesbian. I think she does identify as a girl, but she has that exact haircut as Sam from season 2, and specifically this episode.
I will say specifically the scene that puts me off of this hair is I don't remember when it's happening, but it's like he has taken a bucket and squished it onto his head, and then some of the hairs are coming out here, and then he hairsprayed it that way somehow.
Yeah.
In the very next scene, it's a little bit fluffier, and I'm like, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, it's definitely best when it's most floofy. I think
this was like matted down to his head, and I was like,
Jared's hair is by far the best when they just let it be floofy.
Yes, I agree. I am still
gonna start putting too much product. It's
yes.
Anyway,
agreed. I am still gonna go genuinely good.
Okay.
Even with that blip, but I had to make my feelings known about the.
Okay, that's what this podcast is about.
Bucket head.
Oh well, I also went genuinely good because of the jeans. They were so good, and I have like a weird thing about Jared in jeans because like, and it's something. It's not
long
regular
legs.
jeans. Yes, but it's not regular because he's in jeans all the time, but he's in those like button ups.
No. It's a rare
Jeans?
occurrence now. He's found his like one outfit that he wears all of the time now, and it's not jeans anymore.
As Sam?
No.
I don't know. I don't know what
Sam.
Jared wears.
As Jared.
As Jared.
He
I
did used
could
to always
never
wear
know
jeans,
that. But Sam, like the whole uniform for a hunter is like, wear this plaid.
Sure.
Here's some jeans and a boot. And for
Just
some
one.
reason, when I see one boot, when I see him in jeans and that's like relaxed fit V-neck, I'm like, something happens to me. I have a V-neck tag on my Tumblr for this very reason. And I don't know if it's because it's like kind of a slightly relaxed fit, like in between. Like we're not going out, we don't have a button up on. Like we're not trying to go to, I don't know. It always strikes me as like kind of like college freshman of him early on to be in those button ups. This is like, I'm in my body. I've got a high booty and long legs, and I'm in a V-neck, and I can't help it. It's very genuinely good to me.
I am also a big fan
Very
of the
fair.
jeans. I like the legs.
It's just such a good moment.
I like
It's
the cake.
such a good moment. Okay, the cakes.
Yeah,
Now-
he does have a cute little butt.
He having like the cutest little butt. Okay, let's now score it on the Sam fan friendly scale. It's from 1 to 5. Screen time, we're going to start with Vic. What did you give it for screen time?
So I think this one definitely rates slightly higher than the previous episode.
Okay.
So I guess I'm gonna give this like maybe like a 4.3. I think.
Cool.
Like it's not really Sam centric for reasons that Elle kind of discussed, and I guess I'll talk about that more in like the next two category, the enjoyment category. But yeah, I think again like the screen time that he gets is good, and I think he's physically on the screen slightly more than he was in the previous. So yeah, I think 4.2.
I like it. Okay.
4.2.
Oh, 4.2. Let me get you.
4.2.
All right, Elle's creeping. She's looking at it.
I'm looking at the scale because I can never remember what the wardrobe scale is. I think
so she's watching me type.
Last season, I had to ask you every single time. So now I just put it up so I don't have to ask you.
Y'all.
Screen time, I think for me, I think I'm going to go with another 4. He does have more screen time, but I feel like some of it was kind of like wasted.
That's
screen
fair.
time.
Yeah, it's a painful
that's
time.
fair.
I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4 also. I think when I have painful screen time or when I feel like some of the narrative wasn't specifically great to Sam. So it's not as high as the last one, but it was still really good, especially with the ending there. I really liked how he came around to being like, well, I was wrong, but so were you. So like, let's figure this out. Okay, so let's do enjoyment. Elle, Vic, what did you rate this for enjoyment?
So I think enjoyment wise, I'm gonna rate it actually slightly lower than the previous episode because there's just not as much meat on the bones. It didn't make my brain feel tingly in the same way.
Yeah.
And it didn't like really get into as much depth with Sam as Elle said. Like it could have been like there's the setup for something that really digs deep into Sam's psyche and then also like helps him work through the John stuff at the same time, and I think there could have been a really interesting thing there. But yeah, so what did I give the previous one? 4.5. I think maybe a 3.9 for this one.
Okay. That makes sense. Elle, what did you give it?
I was also thinking like a 3.8 for this one.
Cool.
For the same reasons.
I gave it a 3 because it was hurtful and Dean started being mean, and I know that it's going to keep on happening, and now I'm scared and sad. So I gave it a 3. I gave it a much lower score.
Wow.
I didn't really enjoy. I mean, I liked a lot of it, but like what is the highest will be my hard eyes. And I think that'll balance it out. But again, we're just doing Sam tax, and my numbers are in a different column.
Sam tax.
Yeah. So let's finish up here with hard eyes. Vic, what did you give it for hard eyes?
So heart eyes. I mean, the scene where I get the gender feels does make me want to like bump up the heart eyes.
Yeah.
And I do really like, especially him at the end, as we said, kind of like being so gentle with Dean and kind of offering this as like compassion to Dean. So, oh, it's tough. I think I'm gonna go with 4.6, so like slightly lower than the last episode.
Yeah.
Because like the heart eyes were good, they were cute, but like it wasn't like punchy like in the last episode.
Totally. Okay, Elle?
I was gonna go with a 4.5.
Nailed it.
Because yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the. I mean, it's just like with the what was it, episode 2 of season 1, the airplane one,
Yeah. Phantom
where
Traveler.
eventually Sam in that episode is immediate, but eventually in this one, Sam just comes around to, okay, you know what? Here's the deal, and I'm gonna give you some grace about it, but also stand my ground about it. I
Yep.
mean, you know.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it. Hard eyes 4.5.
My hard eyes are also a 4.5, which is a half point higher than the last episode because specifically the red windsuit, the red wind jackets. And because of that moment at the end with the jeans and the long legs and the v-neck, like you can't, that is that is my aesthetic. Like I was just like,
I keep forgetting that heart eyes is basically supposed to be like more about him being
whatever
like,
you
attractive,
want.
It's whatever you want.
I'm too ace, and I always end up about it being like him being cute or empathetic, or
Which is also valid. It's all valid.
I do cute or empathetic.
okay.
Hey, I do cute and all that stuff when that's relevant. But you know what happened to me today?
Sometimes
A V-neck happened finally, and we get
Listen.
to celebrate.
sometimes he gets choked by a cord from a lamp, and you just have to rate it really high.
Sometimes
That's very true.
Elle does have to do that. I wouldn't.
I
But
mean-
Elle would.
You know where we'll really be getting into the heart eyes for me, like except there is this comment on a YouTube video that was like a Solar Sam compilation, right? But it was like you were either like a Solar Sam girl or you're a like Sam in the Trials girly, and like I am in every other way a Solar Sam girl, but aesthetically. No, Sam in the Trials any day. Like, make that man sick. Give him.
And I'm on the
tuberculosis.
other end. So we're a spectrum. I am Sola Sam. Vic is in the center, and Elle. No,
I'm in the
Elle
center.
is in the center, and Vic is.
This is
Trial
why
Sam.
I have a great deal of love for late season Sam, because he's just kind of like in a perpetual state of
being
looking
destroyed
on the edge of death. I'm so sorry.
You must love
Girls.
Lustra.
Well, if you subscribe to our Patreon, we will have a separate podcast where we are reading Luster to you as an audiobook. So check in for that. Guys, thank you so much for, especially Vic, for staying up way past
Yes.
everyone's bedtime to record this. Elle, thank you. And thank you, Jess. I hope you're out there snoozing right now.
Yes.
Season 2 is back, bitches.
Woo! We're
Oh,
back.
we are so back.
We
We're
will
so
see
back.
you next week. Bye.
Bye.